3, and as you can see, hit the car heavily in the rear, but he did get it back around.
Well, Chad, a lot of guys working here. Well, how did you cause this damage for them?
You know, unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, I came through 3 and I wasn't, you know, we were just kind of pacing ourselves trying to survive this thing, and I came through, and next thing I hadn't even really gone back to power. I just touched the apron and I was backwards. So I don't know if there was some oil down or some debris down on the track. There was actually a lot of debris in the S's, but I hadn't seen anything in the previous laps in 3 there at the crest. So you know, I don't know if there's something down or what, but it's unfortunate for the guys. I mean, we got to get back in this for Chris, and you know, I feel bad for the Dyson crew and everything, but I think we'll get back in this. The guys work hard and get Chris back to where he needs to be with the championship.
Well, no sooner had Chad Block driven away, but this happened as Larry Oberto came through the same turn 3, spun, and smashed into the flatbed tow truck that had arrived to take away Dyson's car. And as we pick up the live action, there you see the race leader, Johnny Herbert, running just behind the Yost Audi, currently 10 laps down, but still very much in the hunt to bring their drivers the championship. They are 4th in the LMP 900 class is the Yost car. As we ride with Herbert through turns 6 and 7 and onto the long backstretch down to Calvin Fish.
Well, a quick update on that lead car. The champion car is running flawlessly. I checked in with the crew. They said it's been a routine race for us thus far. The Yost car, we saw the damage that car sustained during that big crash with Frank Beamer behind the wheel. But Marco Werner just turned laps in the 1:12 range. So the car is certainly fast, but they just want to get it to the finish. They need to get to 70%, which should be around 6 p.m. this evening. That will clinch the championship for both Frank Beamer and Marco Werner.
A much longer stop for the number 20 car. That is back on the racetrack now, having come into the pit with some engine problems, but that is now running. The car which leads 675 is the number 37 car, and the guy who's been driving it so well is Larry Connor. Now, guys, he holds the outright lap record around this circuit in a 1991 Benetton that Michael Schumacher used to drive. So obviously that little 675 Lehto jug, not quite as powerful as that machine.
All right, thanks, Andrews. You see the number 37 Intersport car going back out, LMP 675 class car, heading up the hill to continue the battle here at Road Atlanta. That car, on the driver's strength in that car, currently in the hands of Larry Connor, along with Duncan Dayton and John Field, who is the defending LMP 675 class champion. Jason Workman is 4th in points coming in, but he and his teammates have a shot at boosting Jason to the class championship, although it is mathematically quite a long shot. And then comes that 4-rotor Mazda, the number 64 car in the hands of Howard Katz, Jim Downing, and Yohira Terada of Japan. Now let's check in on the GTS battle. Leader in class, the Pro Drive Care Racing Development Ferrari 550 Maranello in the hands of Thomas Enga, with teammate David Brabham running second in a similar car. Highlights of the GTS class. Shortly after we left you, the battle between Ferrari and Corvette definitely swung in the Italian marque's favor as Anthony Davidson, the Formula One test driver, lapped Johnny O'Connell, recently crowned driving co-champion in the GTS class, with his Corvette teammate Ron Fellows. Meanwhile, the number 88 Ferrari put Kelly Collins in the sister Corvette, the number 4 car, 2 laps down to the race leader. So right now the Ferraris are running 1 and 2 in class. The Corvettes 3rd and 4th, and that's the minimum for the Corvettes. They need to be 3rd if the Ferraris run 1-2. So Corvette, the bow tie boys, are hanging on in the face of the onslaught from these beautiful B12 Ferraris. To Brian Till.
Well, absolutely, Bob. Hanging on is exactly what they're doing. They want to win this race. Certainly they do, but more importantly is the Manufacturers' Championship that we've talked about. It's still a proud group. In addition to the Ferraris being fast, the Corvettes have also gotten caught out by the yellow flags. Untimely yellows for them in between pit stops have caused them to drop even further back. The number 3 car, Fellows, now sits 2 laps behind the leading Ferrari of Thomas Inga, and Oliver Gavin in the 4 car is now 3 laps behind Thomas Inga. Brabham got back in the 80 car on the last pit stop, and amazingly enough, number 0 car of Gabriello Raffinelli's team will be coming back out. They say it's going under some final body fitting, and it should be back out on the track soon. We did not expect to see that green prancing horse back out on the track, but Raffinelli says we will not leave here without returning to the surface.
And bravo to them. That car was crashed heavily early in the race by Emanuele Naspetti. Now let's take a look at the manufacturer's points as they stand. As I said, Corvette doing the bare minimum to hang on to that all-important manufacturer's title. Ferraris 1 and 2, Corvettes 3 and 4. The Bowtie boys lead the manufacturer's championship by 1 point. And now we are on board with Lucas Luhr, the first place car in the GT category, the second of the 2 production categories. Here's a look at the standings. Excuse me, Sasha Maassen, who started that car, is back into it in relief of Lucas Luhr. Those two have been crowned as drivers' champions, but their teammates are trying to hold on to second place in the title chase. Right now, Ralph Kellner's in a Ferrari runs second. Let's take a look at the highlights. Once again, shortly after we went off the air, the number 31 car, Johnny Molam, was edged off the racing surface on the front stretch and crashed heavily against the concrete wall opposite the pits. Not long after that, the number 68 Racers Group car in the hands of New Yorker Pierre Ehret, one of 3 Racers Group 911s in the field, also had a heavy accident. The battle has been thick and fast in GT. David Murray passing Randy Post in a battle of Porsche 911 GT3 RSs for second in class. That position now being occupied by that number 35 Ferrari. You see being passed here by the class-leading number 23, Alex Joe McKenna Porsche. Big front stretch spin for one of the GT class Ferraris. Fortunately, without hitting anything, they continued on their way. Speed Channel coverage of the American Le Mans Series Petit Le Mans is brought to you by Porsche. There is no substitute. Welcome back live to Road Atlanta. I'm Bob Barsh. Our apologies to those of you who tuned in at the top of the hour due to the early end of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race at Martinsville, Virginia. We were able to come back about 10 minutes early. Folks, this is live racing on this beautiful Saturday in October. Down in the pit lane, Andrew Marriott, Calvin Fish, Martin Haven, and Brian Till are covering the action. I'm Bob Barsha. Right now, let's get up to our booth announcers, play-by-play man Lee Diffie, and analysts David Hobbs and Bill Adam.
Thanks, Bob, and great to be back. And Johnny Herbert is enjoying plenty of time in the sunshine out in front. He currently has a very healthy margin over the 2 Panos. Prototype 900 cars, David Salins and Ben Leuenberger in the top 3 at the moment, but it's all ADT champion Audi, and we keep our eyes on the number 1 Yost car. Just how much ground can they make back? Well, it's not all that urgent because despite going down some 10 laps, they're still in a very strong position.
I would assume at this point in the race, what Champion are going to do is to try and run a very reduced pace. Johnny will probably have dialed back one of their onboard systems to try and run as lean a fuel map as possible to try and get the best possible mileage. He doesn't need the luxury of added horsepower at this point, so he just wants to try and stretch the mileage without jeopardizing the motor. I mean, this is a good position to be in because he doesn't have to take any risky passes. And in fact, neither does Marco Werner right now. What Werner did one thing when he caught up to Johnny and passed him, maybe just playing a little bit of a mind game, but all they can do is just to keep running. And same thing for Champion. They have to hope for more bad luck to befall the Yost car.
Well, Marco Werner could maybe try and get around the 2 Painoff cars, but he's going to have his work cut out doing that even. He's lapping in 1:14s. David Salins is 1:16. Leuenberger is pretty slow. He's done a 1:21 on that last lap, but he's been doing about 1:18. So Marco Werner gets to finish where he is now, and he's still got the championship wrapped up for Yost.
David Salins, once again, he's just done such a great job all year long. And we've watched him every time he gets into this car. He's just such a delight. He's always got a smile on his face. He's really this handsome young driver and kind of epitomizes the image of a good racing driver. And he really is fast. Boy, I've been impressed with him.
Won't reveal the source, but I did hear an interesting whisper over the weekend that we may see David in the IRL next year.
Geez, I hope not. thinking selfishly, I like him to stay here because I really enjoy watching him drive.
Sure.
He's fiery.
Sports cars loss, IRL's gain, but I know that he's looking at making some plans and staying in the US. His parents are over here from Brussels this weekend, watching him drive for the first time in America. And here he is, just ahead of Marco Werner. It's been an incredibly strong day for all of the drivers that have run in these Panos machines as Werner slips up the inside of David Salins and
sorry,
Johnny Herbert.
I was going to say, I'd like to see David get a ride in one of the Audis to see how fast he is, because he drives his old Panos with such excitement that maybe to put him in a really high-tech car, God, he would be awesome.
Just remember that was not a pass. He wasn't getting a lap back or a position or anything like that. He's trying to get a lap back if he can get past Johnny Herbert, but he merely just moved ahead of David Salins. He's multiple laps down on the Panos driver at the moment. This gives you a bit of an overview of this guy, his season so far, but since joining with, well, ever since the moment that he came into the JML Panos organisation, he was a sensation, particularly when he teamed with, and it was an immediate bond when he got together with his, well, I can say now, his good friend, Olivier Beretta.
Yeah, that's always a luxury, I think, to have on a team when you're not just a teammate, but you actually enjoy the friendship with the person you're driving with. And there's no jealousy, there's no envy, no anything. It's just pure and simple. You go for it and you share whatever you can bring out of the car.
Well, they've both done quite a bit of open wheel racing, Formula 3000. They both speak French, of course. And they're both pretty evenly matched in terms of speed. There's no doubt about it. Olivier Beretta was doing some incredible laps early on in the race. Obviously, at this time of the day, you know, you settle down 4 hours in, it's pretty hot out there. As Bob says, the wind has sprung up a little bit, but it's still very, very warm out there on the track.
And not only is he a race car driver by profession, but his girlfriend is Miss Belgium.
Not
too
bad.
Don't say about that.
We go to GTS now, and 88 is out in front, the Czech, Thomas Enger. And Thomas and Peter Cox have been just so frustrated. They are desperate to get their first win this year, and it could come today. It's been a very strong run over the sister car. David Brabham is running second in class and is the second Ferrari. Let's get it down to pit lane and hear more from the Ferrari camp. Here's Brian.
Well, so far over the last 3 races, it's all been the number 80 Ferrari, but you guys have been so close, Peter, you and Thomas in the 88 car. Today, it looks like it could be your day. You told me yesterday the car feels so good. Do you think you guys have a chance to win this thing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we really would like to win this one, obviously, for the normal reason. But also, as you already mentioned, we only won Le Mans. And with all respect to the series, I still rather win 10 times more Le Mans than that I win any of these races. But I mean, still, I think we have to make something up from last year. We were leading also comfortably, and then we lost it in the last 2 laps with a bit of damage on the car. So we are really eager to do well here now.
Well, these cars have been strong for the last 3 races, like we said. And another strong car is in the pit lane with Calvin Fish.
Definitely is, Brian. The number 10 machine, the Panos car. David Salins jumping out of the car, and it's Mad Max Pappas. He really wrote his business car here in this race with sports car driving, and he's pleased to be back. So this team is having a great run. We've seen the one Audi have problems today. If that champion car has a glitch, these guys will be here to pick up the pieces. They've run really solidly. There's been minimal development with this car this season, but it's very strong, particularly on their home circuit. Look like a routine stop. They're trying to get Max to fire it up. Cinched up his belts a little bit late, and off he goes.
I don't know, Lee, how fast do you think that crew looked to you?
We'll get to that story later, won't we? There's a little bit of in-joke, but if you stay with us here on Speed, we'll let you in on it a little later. It's about pit stops involving that particular team and us. We'll be back.
Speed Channel coverage of the Petit LeMans is being brought to you by Porsche. There is no substitute. Now that we've set matters straight, welcome back. There's a beautiful aerial view of Road Atlanta from our Porsche aerial cam. Huge crowd on hand on a beautiful day as we continue to work in the 4th hour of this 10-hour or 1,000 miles, whichever comes first, American Le Mans Series Petit Le Mans. On board with the race and LMP 900 class-leading ADT champion Audi R8 in the hands of Johnny Herbert. A Let's get back to the booth now to Lee Diffie, Bill Adam, and David Hobbs.
Thanks, Bob. We continue to ride with Johnny Herbert, and while we enjoy this ride, Bob mentioned to you earlier in the day, folks, that you can become part of our broadcast by emailing us here directly to the booth. Simply go to speedtv.com and follow the link there, and you can email us here. Our first email today comes from Perry from Irmo in South Carolina, and David, as a former BMW driver, I'll hand this one to you. Perry's question is, any news on BMW, the factory that is, returning to the American Le Mans Series competition?
The answer is, I don't know.
I would say, well, my opinion would be, so long as they're heavily involved in Formula One, I'd say
they're spending a lot of money on Formula One. We were close to them at the Indianapolis race, the US Grand Prix, and here you see Mr. Stuck himself having a fine old time. He just loves driving. Hans Stuck in his 50s now, and still really able to mix it with the best of them. And of course, nothing he likes better than a drop of rain. And Hans has been driving for BMW now for many, many years. In fact, he and I drove together for BMW back in like 1981. We drove an M1 together, and we were both a lot younger then, but old Hans is hanging right in there. And I saw him, and funny enough, he was doing the TV. He does German TV for the Formula One Championship. And I don't think there's any imminent threat of BMW coming back big time here in the States just yet. They're spending a lot of money on Formula One.
Well, this is about as close as their involvement would get, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah.
This is an operation from Tom Milner and the PTG Group, and this celebrates the 25th anniversary of the Advan brand for Yokohama tyres, that is, and the successful trio of Hans Stuck, Boris Said, and Bill Aublin, who won this race back in 2001. We go further up the field in GT, and Sasha Masson in his Alex Joe Porsche continues to lead the way from Ralph Kellner's. That Risi Competizione Ferrari has done a wonderful job here today. It's been giving us some thrilling battles so far, and the second Alex Joe Porsche with Romain Dumas runs third.
Sasha Masson has driven impeccably all day. His teammate in the 24 car had a rather unfortunate incident when the Olive Garden car ran right inside of it. But Sasha Masson has had a pretty uneventful day. If you call going through traffic like this uneventful. Really got to keep your eyes open all the time. Someone like Sasha Masson is quickest in that 911, that GT group. He's intent on, he's going pretty fast. He can't spend too much time looking out the back because the LMP 675 and the 900 goes significantly quicker than they are.
Yeah, see, just a little different setup coming off the corner there, and he just goes by that Orbit car so quickly. He is great to watch.
Leo Hendry in the 43 Orbit Porsche, enjoying his run out there on track. Plenty more from Road Atlanta. Stick around.
Back live at Road Atlanta, great ASA stock car short track racing action coming your way tomorrow here on Speed Channel. It's the ASA in Nashville, Tennessee. Check it out Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, live only on Speed. Welcome back. We are under caution for the 5th time today, and there you see the reason. Let's find out more. Sixth full course caution of the day. Let's go upstairs to Lee, Bill, and David and find out why.
Tough break there for Jeff Swart in the Racers Group Porsche, and all three of their cars, Kevin Buckler must be saying, well, what have I done wrong to deserve this? It's been a very eventful day for the 66, 67 and 68. Here's a replay. Talk us through, Bill.
Yeah, you're really only going to see the end of it, but oh man, did he get a hard hit. That is coming out of that very tight uphill left-hand corner, and it looks like something had taken place before he even reached the crest of the hill, but he just launched off the top and then hard into the barrier.
Either that or he just flat lost it on the way out when he went over the curb. You go over the curb and you go
that's his cool suit, by the way, too. He didn't injure himself.
Scary moment, too, for the 88 car. Moments after that happened with Jeff Swart. And at this stage, it was the class-leading car. Check this out, down into turn one.
And I think maybe just watched in the mirror just a fraction too long. Turned in and then bumped on the Yost Audi, goes off. There's the benefit of a good runoff area. You can see he gets through the dirt and does nothing more than dirty up the car.
He nearly got into that wall there, but unfortunately he didn't see the number one car coming up. That number one car's had a checkered race, and that's Marco Werner before. Exactly the same thing happened to Frank Bieler. This time, of course, it was the 88 car.
I don't think
Thomas
Egg, I don't think Egg expected him to pass going in there.
I don't think he did that.
Right in front of Thomas Enger on the track at the moment. We'll take advantage of this to pay credit to Essex Racing, that little Nissan Lola. Jason Workman, Andrew Davis, done a very good job. Scott Bradley, they're currently second in the 675 class and enjoying a very prominent position. And Scott is running third in that category, I should say Jason Workman's running third in that category. So this could be a very good day for those guys.
Boy, frustrating day for Jeff Sword. They had a dinner with him that night, chatting to him in the restaurant we were at. He's a photographer, among other things. He's got 25 hours riding in the backseat of an F-18.
Wow.
Envy.
So
Cleanup a ball.
Cleanup continues. It's been a very, very eventful day. 7 cautions already. We are over third race distance. We're approaching the 400-mile mark of this 1,000-mile race.
But I think it's going to run to 10 hours, the way things are going at the moment.
Jeff Zwart. He is not, shall we say, a fresh young face in motorsports. In addition to being a photographer, he is also a very, very experienced racing driver, many-time champion at the Pikes Peak Hill Climb, driving Porsches. So this is not a car he is unfamiliar with. As you see Johnny Herbert bringing the race-leading Audi R8 to the pit lane. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
Well, Johnny brings it in perfectly. He's going to be really busy down here right now under caution. Of course, everyone's coming in the pits. The Ferrari's right beside him. A little bit of a problem there with the seat insert. Johnny didn't get the seat out. JD said, you got to get that out. I'm a little bit bigger than you, mate. Climbs in. When you look at these front fenders, there's been some damage done here. There's been a lot of pickup with the tires. What that does, that accumulates underneath the fender, then it drops down and the wheel fires it back up and shoots these big holes in the bodywork. But the team think they got a handle on that now. Maybe they'll change it nose a little bit later point in the race if they think it's a problem. But the number 1 car is in. They've also had nose problems, so let's get it back up top.
Well, you can see looking at the front of the Yost car right there, that's where they made contact with the Ferrari, and both of the winglets are still on there, so I think it's fine.
Ryan?
Down in Pro Drive, looks like Manu will be getting in the 88 car and Anthony Davison will be getting in the 80 car. There is a little bit of damage to the front of the 88, and as I look at the 80 car as it rolls off, the splitter in the back is broken a little bit. They're already showing the signs of the battle, literally, that's going on this racetrack.
Oh, stalled it.
Problems there for the 80. Now, finally, David Brabham gets it fired up and back out. You can see at the head of that line is Chris Dyson in the 20. Great to see Chris back out on track, but they are so far down in the order after that earlier crash with Chad Block at the helm. Intersport car, problems there. Andrew, what's the story?
Yes, the problem is the Judd engine is starting to overheat now. I've just spoken to Hugh Chamberlain. He says they hope it's just debris. In fact, they've just thrown out a bit of an MG, a Lola MG that's come out the front of the car. But there's a lot of debris coming out, basically rubber, so maybe it's just a build-up of that debris which is causing the car to overheat. But they are concerned. They've got the computer plugged in and also trying to blow out all this very mess from around the radiator area. But it's tricky times here for John Field.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that we frequently see as the races goes on, the amount of marbles that build up on the edges of the corner, just all the little bits of rubber. And of course, a lot of this marble material does get collected into the radiator openings. One thing just to point out too, that talking to Duncan Dayton, he was saying how nice it is to have Hugh Chamberlain along with this team. He said where John Field can sometimes get a bit excited, get caught up in the moment, Hugh Chamberlain's got this very relaxed attitude that kind of goes through the whole team. So good job.
As they return to the track and we work our way closer to green, we'll take a quick break from Road Atlanta, but plenty more from Petit LeMans. Back live at Road Atlanta and back to green. You join us right at the moment of the restart. Here we go once again. JJ Lehto now behind the wheel of the lead car. You see the 2 Panos LMP01s in their final race under the Panos banner, the JML Team Panos banner. And in those cars right now, Mad Max Pappas and Canadian Scott Maxwell. Pretty eventful weekend for those guys. Jeanette crashed the 11 early in the weekend. They had a little bit of extra work to do, but everything running smoothly for them at the moment. We ride with the lead car now. JJ Lehto, thumbs up, says thank you very much for giving me a little bit of room. Let's go down to the pits, Cal.
Well, JJ's teammate here just fixing his hair, Johnny Herbert. Do you change your strategy now, mate? I mean, you have a big lead. You just need to get it to the finish and hopefully win this thing. Do you drop the pace at all?
You don't
on, there's a lot of pickup going on, and I had it once actually went off at turn 1, and it's basically like a big ball that just collects inside it, and it sort of bounces around a couple of times. Sometimes it gets stuck on the tyre and underneath, and when you get it stuck on the tyre, it's like a massive vibration, and it just bounces the car and takes the car basically off the circuit, but it just sort of threw it off, and it blasted its way through the bodywork. And everything was okay. So what I'm trying to do now is really not really go over too many curbs, not trying to overtake people in places I don't need to, just because I might have a chance of picking something up.
Okay, well, there's the strategy there for Johnny Herbert on the GTS front. Let's get down to Brian Tell.
Thomas Inga just stepped out of the leading GTS Ferrari. And Thomas, scary moment for you out there with Velo. What happened?
Well, unfortunately, I've been told over the radio there will be a full course yellow. And unfortunately, the flags were not out yet. And I actually started to brake slightly early into turn 1. And I didn't know that the silver Audi is behind me. And actually I turned into the corner and we hit each other. Unfortunately, I spun into the gravel, lost my first position, but luckily, thanks to the guys in the pit stop, we went ahead of our teammates again, and we are in the leading, so that's fantastic.
The car is good. How important would it be? What would it mean to you to win Le Mans and Petit in the same year?
Well, obviously, after our bad luck in last 3 races, let's say, I mean, with my car, it would have been great to win Le Mans and Petit Le Mans, obviously.
Keeping their fingers crossed down here, guys.
Thomas Angus spoke about being in the gravel, and he's getting more experience at that, and I don't mean whilst road racing. He's been dabbling in some rallying in the Czech Republic where he lives, and last weekend he won his very first rally.
Well, of course, there's racing in the gravel is one thing, driving through the gravel is another. And I tell you what, that gravel, well, today you see a good view of it. It gets jammed everywhere. It gets jammed between, it can get jammed between the caliper and the wheel. And I mean, it can machine the wheel rim up in a heartbeat. It's nasty stuff to get jammed in the chassis of a car. And he was pretty lucky to get through there. Obviously, they've had a pit stop since then, and one assumes that when they changed the tyres, everybody had a pretty good look around to see that, make sure there was no gravel stuck in there, because it is absolutely lethal stuff when it gets jammed in all those, in the crevices of the chassis.
From GTS to GT, and the lead car is still that 23 Alex Job Racing. Lucas Luhr now behind the wheel, taking over from Sasha Masson. Just the 2 drivers in this car, whilst the sister car running the 3 of Bernard, Bergmeister and Dumas. These 2 guys going it alone.
And maybe even more impressive considering the fact that they are both sick today. Remember, I brought up earlier that when I chatted yesterday with Lucas, that he had his jacket done up very tight around his neck and was shivering and pale, just didn't look at all well. Sasha had gone through the same thing. He's a little bit better, but they have really, I think, had remarkable concentration today. They haven't put a wheel wrong.
The same combination of drivers in GT in the history of Petit Le Mans have never won back-to-back. However, Sasha and Lucas are the reigning Petit Le Mans champions. They could go back-to-back right here today. They've broken just about every other record in the history of the American Le Mans series.
Amazing.
Now you just saw the eagle-eyed ones amongst you, just saw going down on that straight, you could see some rubber rolling down the road, just exactly what Johnny Herbert, there's a great big lump of rubber bouncing down the road. You run over that and it gets stuck to the tyre, it plays havoc with the tyre.
Guys, keep in mind as we watch this Ferrari in the GT category, this is the 360 di Modena, this is a factor in the GT championship. We know that Lucas Luhr and Sasha Masson have the driver's title for the second straight year. We know that Porsche has clinched its 4th manufacturer's title in GT in the last 5 years. But Timo Bernard and Jörg Bergmeister, Luhr and Masson's teammates, were just 1 point up on Anthony Lazzaro and Ralph Kellners, who are second in the championship standings. Johnny Mullen and Craig Stanton were another 4 points out. We know what happened to them. They're crashed and done. But then Kevin Buckler and Kurt Wagner in another Porsche 911 are also in contention for 3rd place in the championship. Right now you see Ralph Kellners trying to close the gap on Lucas Luhr. Kellners and Lazzaro from Ackworth, Georgia, looking for 2nd in the title chase. Back up to the booth.
It's going to be a fascinating battle as this day progresses. That race for 2nd. And fantastic news we can bring you right now. The Zero Olive Garden Team Raffinelli Ferrari is back. Wonderful to see. And that team is the epitome of the phrase never give up.
That's true. You know, we saw that back at Mosport. Remember, Mimo Scattarella had a huge accident going around turn 3, pushed that thing hard into the tire wall, and they worked all night long. Did a lot of carbon fiber work and straightened and pulled and got everything going, and actually were able to run the race, and they completed the race. They did such a good job. The car finished the event.
Their third driver here today at Road Atlanta, young guy that we became familiar with earlier this year here on Speed Channel, Joel Camatias. Yet to see him in that car, and the 20 Lola AER is back out on track as we mentioned earlier, and great to see Chris Dyson behind the wheel. He is fighting for a championship here today. There's still such a long way to go. The day is not done yet for Chris Dyson. Time for a quick break from Road Atlanta. Stay with us. Back at Road Atlanta, great shot above from the Porsche aerial cam. We continue here at Petit LeMans, the final round of the American Le Mans Series. We ride now with the race leader, JJ Lehto, already 163 laps down for ADT champion. Time now to turn up the volume at home, enjoy the sounds of speed as we give you a variety of onboard shots. Leading car, we go from prototype 900 to GT, and we ride now with the 43 Orbit Racing Porsche, Peter Barron behind the wheel.
Really give you an idea of how hard these drivers work here. Never a stop.
From the 43 to the 3, GTS, Ron Fellows.
The sun's starting to get tricky for them now.
23 to 3 to 23. And Lucas Lua, lead car in GT.
3 seconds in front of Ralph Carnes. GT guys have to keep up much more momentum than like the GTS or the prototypes, because they just don't, they need the momentum because they don't have the horsepower.
Now let's ride with the Zero, the Olive Garden Ferrari. Very much damaged earlier in the day, but looking a lot healthier now. The GT car can't afford to lift there because you've got this long straight.
Boy, there's nothing like the sound of a Ferrari V12. Oh, it's sweet.
Joel Carmatias enjoying his ride in the Zero car, and talking about the team from Tuscany, let's join Brian and the team principal.
Well, racing certainly is a team sport. We've seen that a lot today, and we saw the feature on the team from Tuscany and Gabriele Raffinelli. You have to be so proud of your guys. Disappointed, I know, that the car was out for so long, but so proud of these guys to get it back out.
Yes, I told them, guys, we're going to finish this race. It was pretty bad. We had no more oil radiator, no more water radiator. All the carbon fiber was gone, all the docking for the brake. You have to fabricate some of the parts to put everything back together. I'm sure the car's going to be okay.
We saw it come back in after the first lap. Everything's okay? Checked out all right?
Double checking. That's okay.
Absolutely, guys. They had to not just put the car back together, they had to rebuild it, because all the pieces on the front, as Gabriella said, had to be fabricated. They had to make them and then put them on the car. What a job.
Well, they want to give Olive Garden a send-off and the thank you that they deserve. It's been 4 wonderful years of sponsorship and the association with Team Raffinelli. This is their last hurrah, and we hope to see Gabriele and his team back next year, but I think it's going to be with a different car. Time to take a quick break from Road Atlanta. Such a long way to go, and we've got plenty more to bring you right here on Speed. And Reinhold Joost, the master, looking pretty relaxed.
Welcome back live to Road Atlanta. Be sure to check out great drag racing action coming your way. The IHRA Drag Racing Series from Epping, New Hampshire, tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Speed Channel. Welcome back to Petit LeMans. I'm Bob Varsha. Lee Diffie, Bill Adam, and David Hobbs were in the announce booth. Andrew Marriott, Calvin Fish, Brian Till, and Martin Haven in the pit lane. If you'd like to email us here at the racetrack, just go to speedtv.com and click on the live link to the track. Give us your comments or questions. We'll try to answer them as the day goes on. You can also contact the American Le Mans Series at americanlemans.com. Be sure to click on that. Express your opinions to the American Le Mans Series on their great sports car racing action that ends here today in front of a huge crowd at Road Atlanta. And I'd like to dip into our email bag here. David and Cindy in Forest Hill, California, Jeremiah, no address given, was asking where the Orange Zip Racing Team hazardous number 33 car was today. I haven't seen it on the tickers. Jeremiah, they are not here. That car was an early entry to this year's Petit LeMans. I believe they're based in the Chicago area, but they withdrew and did not roll onto the premises here. David and Cindy from Forest Hill, California wanted to know, can you give us any insight into the silly season for 2004? David and Cindy, I can assure you of this. I don't think there's a more active silly season in any form of motorsport than there is in the American Le Mans Series right now. Just this weekend, they announced a new schedule for 2004 with a couple of new venues on it, including Lime Rock Park in Connecticut and the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We'll put that up for you. There it is, beginning, of course, at the 12 Hours of Sebring, an event you'll see here on Speed Channel, then the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in June, followed by Lime Rock Park on the July 4th holiday weekend. Back to Infineon Raceway in Sonoma, California, also in July, as is a return to Portland, Oregon. A beautiful natural terrain road course just outside of that city in the Pacific Northwest. 3 of those 5 races appearing here on Speed. Later on, the Mosport Park in Bowmanville, Ontario. Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, beautiful Road America. Back here to Brazelton, Georgia, and Road Atlanta for the Petit LeMans, to be followed next year by a visit to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterey, California. Go to AmericanLeMans.com for more information on the series in 2004. Right now, let's get back to the booth.
And that last race at Laguna Seca Raceway will be a 4-hour enduro, which will certainly look forward very much to. And very similar to this year, you see that big gap between the first round and the second round, Bill, and that will allow teams to go off to the 24 hours of Le Mans testing and then the event itself.
Yeah, one of those things we chatted about last night. It would be nice if the Le Mans people, boy, just look at that right front fender. They're just as I'm talking, just look in that area. You can see that they've talked about that big ball of rubber having come off the car and punched its way through the fender. So it's damaged the vents on the top of the fender that really help the downforce.
I was going to say the Venturas on the top of these fenders are an essential part of the downforce on these Audis. And although there's a hole there, so you are getting some Venturi effect.
Oh, yeah.
You're not getting anything like the effect you should do with the proper Venturi there, so they'll no doubt change the nose on the next scheduled stop.
Let's take a look at how JJ has fared this season. 3 wins, and of course the big joy coming as they cracked the first win for ADT champion Audi right here at Road Atlanta earlier in the year in June. The next win coming at Road America, and most recently, of course, that stunning drive by JJ, who took the first in, and then Johnny Herbert, who brought it to the flag on the very tight and bumpy streets of Miami.
Well, going from Road America to Miami is really going from the Sublimey to the Core Blimey, because one is long, lots of long straights, 4.5 miles, of course. Circuit in Miami, very tight, very restrictive. Enough. What a
folks at home may be wondering, I'm coming, fellas. Just keep your pants on. As you watch JJ at work, we know that he is second to the championship, just 14 points behind the Yost Audi duet. And folks may be wondering why his teammate Johnny Herbert, who's been there basically all season long, is not tied with JJ for second to the championship. Well, the fact is, Johnny drove for the Yost team at Sebring, the 12 hours, and did not fare as well as JJ. Thus, he trails his current teammate by several points in the championship. He drove with Bentley at Sebring, and of course at the 24 hours of Le Mans. And that is why he is a few points behind his current teammate JJ Lehto for this year's championship. You score points with one team. Let's pick up the GTS battle, gentlemen.
As we ride with the number 3 Corvette, Ron Fellows is behind the wheel at the moment. Ron currently sits 7th overall, 3rd in the GTS category. And just to remind you of that manufacturer's battle, that will be enough right now to clinch Corvette General Motors that manufacturer's crown. Let's hear more from the Corvette pit. Here's Andrew.
Yeah, but Johnny O'Connor. Johnny O's proving to be a bit of a tough one, this.
Well, you know, not really. I mean, you know, these CompuWare Chevrolet Corvettes, they're very strong, very durable. They're running great. We're pretty much on our game plan right now. The most important thing is looking at the big picture. That's manufacturer's title. And, you know, one thing we've learned over the years at Pratt Miller is to make sure we're there at the end, because these races always have a funny way of coming to you. So, you know, right now everything's good. Ron's doing a great job. Frank's doing a great job. You know, the boys in the 4 car are running strong. So we're not uncomfortable with where we're at.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks, guys.
And from all of us at Speed Channel, because Johnny is part of our team as well, we're very pleased to announce that he already has clinched the GTS driver's crown. Problems here for Jim Downing's car, right rear tire problem. Let's hope it's something as simple as just a flat. The team go to work. Let's see if we can find out what happened to Jim. Replay here. Talk us through, David.
Whoops. Looks like he just spun on his own unless the tyre was already down when he got there, which is probably the most,
Yeah, look at it, David.
I would say the tyre was already down when he got there, which was what spun him around, put the brakes on, turned into the corner, loaded up the tyre, obviously no strength left in the tyre, and luckily he hadn't got very far to come back.
Yeah, good to spin at the slow speed as opposed to 100 yards before.
Well, he spins at the slow speed A and B, and only got a few hundred yards to get back to the pits.
Yep.
Usually happens going to turn 1.
Yeah.
Jim Downing rejoins. We will take a brief break here on Speed Channel, and so too do the teams. Welcome back to Speed Channel's live and exclusive coverage of the final round of the American Le Mans Series for this season, the Petit LeMans, the 6th annual event here at this wonderful circuit in Georgia. At the moment, as we see a Panos pit stop, the 11 car is in again. Scott Maxwell getting out and Gunnar Jeanette climbing on board. JJ Lehto leads the way in the race overall and in the 900 category. Carl?
Well, there's a big problem on this machine right now, Lee, and that's the fact the power steering has gone out, and these cars are really designed with all the steering geometry for that system to be working. So these boys are really having their work cut out, and right now I just spoke to Andy Wardrop. He said the guys can only do about half a stint and then they just get worn out. So they're having to physically and literally muscle this thing around, and Gunnar Jeanette's in, Scott Maxwell jumps out. So these cars are hard to drive, even though they're open cockpit. They got that front engine that dissipates a lot of heat back into the cockpit. And we saw how overheated David Salen's got down in Miami in those brutal conditions we had down there just a couple of weeks ago. So it's going to be a long, hard race for these boys on the Panos team.
They are still sitting 3rd in category and 3rd overall. It's Lehto, Pappas and now Gunnar Jeanette on board the 11 car. Time to bring you another email, and don't forget you can go to speedtv.com, go to the live link on that front page, and you can email us right here in the announce booth. This one's for you, David, seeing how you work on the Speed F1 team. Ferrari F1 versus Audi R8. With the success of both cars, but in different series, can there be a comparison made between the two? Would the Audi R8 be able to compete with the Ferrari and possibly beat it in a race? And that comes from George in Toronto, Ontario. Whoa, look at this. Problems again for the Zero car, the Olive Garden car.
Oh, all that work, and of course we realised that it wouldn't have done the race just as anyway. It wouldn't have been classified as a finisher. All that work, and the thing is destroyed again.
Well, that's for the far end of the course, and he actually had a gravel trap way over on the left that he probably would have.
If he had a brake failure to go in there, that's a long way in.
No, I can't imagine it being a brake failure.
Joel Carmatias, that was his first stint in this car today.
See, the windshield looks okay, so I mean, I don't think that's that bad of a hit. Nothing looks
Is that one of those lumps of rubber that come through the fender there?
Jeez, maybe. Well, we're going to get a couple of looks and to see what happened here as Joel clambers out of the car. 6'6".
Look at the size of him.
We had that on-board shot with him just a few moments ago, and I was thinking that guy's knees are awfully close to the wheel. That would explain it.
How did he ever fit in a champ car?
6'6" into 5'4" don't go.
Well, let's see. So coming up.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
it
it's
looks
pretty much
like he just carried too much speed. Well, that is a pretty hard hit.
I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if he had some sort of brake failure, or...
No, he overcorrected. That's, I think, just lack of familiarity with the car, and you saw the tail start to come out a little bit. He overcorrected, and then it bit. Oh, man. After all the work that those fellas have put in, Mr. Raffinelli is going to be opening up his wine bottles right about now. I think
he's on the plane back to Tuscany if I was him.
We heard Gabriele Raffinelli say earlier that they had no more spares. They had to manufacture items to get this car back out on the track. And that's about done their day.
Yeah. I think that may have done his future driving for Mr. Raffinelli also. That's not the kind of thing you want to do in Vita.
I'll tell you, this is not the sort of day you want for your budget. This is the sort of thing that can really blow a budget.
Oh, my.
They spent an awful lot of money on that car today.
They spent a lot of money in this car all season long, because unlike the ProDrive organization, this is a very small organization itself. Raffinelli Racing. ProDrive worldwide employs 1,600 people. It's a huge, very, very well engineered firm.
As we go back to the front and take another look at JJ Lehto. David, let's address this email question from George in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We say hello to all of our Canadian viewers. Ferrari F1 versus Audi R8, is there any fair comparisons? The R8
the R8 is an incredibly fast car, awesomely powerful, awesome handling, tremendous downforce. Their good time around here is about a 111. A Ferrari Formula 1 car around here would do probably about a 102. Down here, a Formula One car would be absolutely, in corners like that, the downforce, the grip would be awesome.
Except if you ran a 1,000-mile long race.
Well, it might be different then.
Give me the Audi.
Good question, George, and we thank you for that. Brian Till.
Well, obviously, guys, in racing, the highs are highs and the lows are lows. And Gabriele Raffinelli, we talked to you a little while ago about how proud you were of the guys, and now this happens. Maybe we should forget 2003 and talk about 2004 and make sure that we see you guys back here.
When it's not to be, it's not to be. It's a black day, that's all there is to it. What can I say? I don't know what happened to the car, but you know, he lost control, that's all there is to it.
In 2004, we know that you've been such a fixture in this ALMS series. Going to see you back in 2004, yes?
For sure, yes, I'll be back.
I'll be back. That's what they said a little while ago, and they were, and now this, but hold on, they'll be back in 2004, guaranteed. What? You couldn't ask for a better team. What a gentleman.
Mimo Schiatarella in the background there and consoling Gabriella. Look at that.
Mimo.
Never mind.
They have a passion for racing. Wonderful. That's a heartbreak.
He's done amazing things in yachting, the America's Cup, and he's done some pretty special things in motor racing. This is not special though.
Look at their
problems for the GT class leading car.
Boy, look at the fender. He's gonna be lucky, I think, to get away with very little body damage from
Yeah, because he's almost back now. He's done a little bit of damage, but not much.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is credit to the experience of Lucas Luhr. That Lucas and Sasha, they are champions for very good reason, not just the God-given ability of driving, but they know how to take care when something like this happens. Instead of going at high speed where that rubber could just flap and really do a lot of damage on the suspension and all the way around it, it looks like he was pretty careful.
And while they're in fixing that problem, the car that will take over the lead came in at the same time. The 360 Modena is in pit lane, and Ralph Kelleners will hand over to Anthony Lazzaro.
Ralph Kelleners was just 3.5 seconds behind Lucas Luhr on that before they came in.
Andrew Marriott's there.
Yes, I am, and you can see that tyre is absolutely smoking. They're going to pull this off very quickly. We tried it a little earlier, and that's not that bad, really. And the second wheel goes on, and I think there'll be away very little time left. And Lucas Luhr is still not looking too well. You know, he's had this terrible flu, but he's calm at the wheel, so just looking down the pit road, and they're going to go out, and they're going to stay in front of the Ferrari. They have stayed in front of the Ferrari.
You can see the Ferrari further down there. Great work from Alex Job Racing. That was a pressure cooker situation, and they came out on top. Well done. Speaking of pulling those tyres off, did you get hosed by Marriott in that competition? Monsieur Holt?
Not a chance.
Oh, we absolutely
destroyed them.
We applied for a job.
Here they are, the top two in GT, back out together, and we again pay credit to Alex Job Racing, but Anthony Lazzaro's not done with yet. They've come in, fueled up, and they're all ready to go. He's feeling fresh after Ralph Kelleners has done a very nice job.
Welcome back to Petit Le Mans. Be sure to check out Speed News Saturday, special edition at 12 a.m. Eastern Time tonight with all the highlights of today's Petit Le Mans. 10 hours or 1,000 miles, whichever comes first. And interesting, over the years, this race has never failed to finish the 1,000 miles well ahead of the 10-hour time limit. We expect more of that. You go on board with J.J. Lehto and the race-leading ADT champion Audi R8. Moments ago, a rear tire problem for Sasha Maassen and Lucas Luhr allowed Ralph Kelleners to close up. You saw those two cars pitted together. They are back out on track. Kelleners replaced by Georgia's own Anthony Lazzaro. There you see Lazzaro in the red Ferrari 360 Modena trying to chase down the class-leading Porsche. So the GT first and second place cars are nose to tail here working the 5th hour at Petit Le Mans. Let's go back upstairs to Lee Diffie, Bill Adam, and David Hobbs.
Coming into today's race, we had about 4 main storylines. Who would win the P900 category, who would win P675, who would take out the manufacturer's crown in GTS, and who would get second in GT. And that's a pretty appropriate point at the moment, Bill Adam, as Timo Bernhard, he got back on the lead lap quite a while ago, but now he's been reducing the gap, and Timo and Jörg Bergmeister are defending that second position in the GT class at the moment. They sit third in GT, and they're doing a wonderful job behind this car.
I like this very much, that neither they nor the team gave up on that door problem that happened early on when they hit the Olive Garden Ferrari, and they have battled back very well. They've been running very, very good lap times, and I think maybe the strength of the two younger drivers is going to help them.
Whoa!
Oh boy, and there's a high-speed spin right there.
That's the Cycle Porsche, and one of the Ferraris did a wonderful job there. That was the 80 car of Anthony Davidson. Did a terrific job to avoid him.
Look where the rubber starts, way back there.
That was a lovely...
that's got to be, what, 155-mile-an-hour spin?
Something must have gone wrong or broken, unless he clipped somebody.
Yeah. No.
There's some of that rolled-up rubber on the right, the picture right up the top there, Bill.
Look,
right there.
Right there in that corner.
That's Tony Burgess in the Cycle Porsche. A lucky escape for Tony.
I hope nobody hits that sitting on the track.
Something...
That's scary, turning the car backwards at that speed, of course. Instead of the rear wing trying to hold the car down, it wants to pick it up. Yeah, you know, I think it's a flat tire because you could see that. Well, look at the front.
The left rear is flat.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Well, we'll see that better than the ring. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Man, just at the crest of the hill, the fastest place on the track.
Well, there's all that rubber on the left here, on the left of the picture there, on the left of the track.
Yeah.
Tons of it, and...
Calvin, what do you have for us?
Well, the number 10 car is in. Looks like a routine pit stop. Mad Max Pappa's going to be doing a double. So they got in before the pits were closed, and this could be a little bit of a break for them, but they're soldiering on. They're having a great run here this afternoon. Max gives a quick wink to the team. He's getting a little refreshment there in the bottle, but just as normal with the ALMS rules, the fueling has to be done before the team can go to work. And actually, the guy on the left front there may have jumped the gun, literally. He took that wheel nut off before the fueling was released, and I would anticipate there'll be a penalty at the end of this stop. He went to the gun early, and I believe the IMSA official was here watching that, so let's see what happens at the end. I think they'll have to wait.
Well, that pit stop looks a very familiar scene.
It does. I think they learned something from us.
I think they were watching you now, Bill.
Not to do it the way we did it. Interesting, too, watching that Porsche after the spin, and instead of doing what the Olive Garden Ferrari did by pulling across the track, particularly that ultra-high-speed area, he chose to go back up and actually get completely off the circuit to turn the car, and then I assume he's going to rejoin and bring it around to the pits for a tire change.
Going back to the spectator area.
I can't imagine that.
I can't imagine he'd do that, but it was very clever the way he went contra traffic there. So,
yeah.
Because he couldn't see round that left-hand bend. Left-hand to him.
Frustrating times as Max Pappas had to endure that penalty. That time must have felt like forever. The Cycle Porsche limps back to pit lane.
Welcome back to Petit LeMans. Let's review some of the highlights since we came on the air just before 3 o'clock this afternoon. Big spinning crash for the number 67 Racers Group Porsche. Just one of many on the day. Close moment for the GTS leading Ferrari. Thomas Enga didn't see the Audi coming up on his starboard side. Unfortunately, didn't hurt the car. Under a yellow flag, pit stops all around. Johnny Herbert brings in the race-leading 82 champion Audi and hands over to teammate J.J. Lehto. The Ferrari crews were in the pits, along with a host of others, as you see. And then we went green. Working deep into the 5th hour, approaching the halfway mark of this race. David Salins in the Panos, a revelation, moving up to 2nd in the overall and the LMP 900 standings. Chris Dyson back on track after a heavy crash by teammate Chad Block. Dyson still hoping for that 675 class championship. Joel Camathias brought the Olive Garden GTS Ferrari back out after a long stay in the garage, and that was his reward. Problems for the GT class leading. Alex Joe Porsche 911, left rear tire down. He came into the same pits at the same time as the number 2 in class Ferrari. Big spin for the 52 Cycle Porsche. He then drove backwards against traffic up the grass verge, but has gotten it back down into the pits. to effect repairs. To the pit lane and Calvin Fish.
Well, big drama right now, Bob. The leader is in, and J.J. Lehto cannot get the car refired. Under these regulations, as we've mentioned many times, you have to shut the engine down, and it has to fire under its own power. You cannot push start these cars. So right now, little consternation. They have a healthy lead over the second place, number 10 car, I believe it is still. But J.J. Lehto, they told him to work on the switches there in the cockpit. They're trying to give him some help here, but right now there is no power going to this Audi.
These cars, these Audis, are very high-tech, as we've discussed, and you have to go through a very specific and somewhat complex procedure, clearing the computers and so forth, that control this twin-turbo engine. Our colleague Dorsey Schrader drove this car early in its champion career, and he said you would not believe how complex the car is. Bill Adams driven one as well. Bill, perhaps you can fill us in as to what you have to go through to get this rocket ship launched.
Well, one of the things that really can come back to haunt you is the thing that makes the car work so well, and that's the computer systems itself. That if there's a battery problem, sometimes the computer will kick back almost into a standby mode. I had it happen to me up at Road America and couldn't figure out why the car wouldn't start. And one of the engineers had to come over and reprogram the computer. But go back to Le Mans, I remember they had a few problems with a few of the cars there, and it turned out to be a starter motor problem itself. I can see it changing batteries right now, so let's see if this works first.
And it's very fortunate for the ADT champion team that this has occurred under caution.
Oh, yeah.
We are currently in our 7th full-course caution. The rescue team have gone out to pick up the Zero Olive Garden Ferrari. And now Max Pappas is within 4 laps of the race lead for JML Team Panos. Panos has won the Petit LeMans before at the hands of David Brabham, Eric Bernard, and Andy Wallace back in '99. Cal?
Well, they did change the battery and they're putting the panel back in. JJ gave it the thumbs up like he might have power again, but what amazes me is these holes in these fenders, guys. Completely torn out the top part of this bodywork, and that will surely affect the downforce a little bit. Let's go down to Andrew.
Yeah, John Fields is just climbing out of the car. Duncan Dayton get in there, very worried about the water temperature on this car. It's currently running at 110. Well, that really means steam, but the water is under pressure, so that's why you aren't seeing any steam. But they're worried about what is causing that. They're putting the fuel in now, and let's see if it'll go away nice and cleanly, but definitely a lot of concern down here.
They still lead the 675 class. However, Jason Workman is right there, just 2 laps back, and they have had a consistent and steady day for Essex Racing. That will be one to watch.
Well, all that rubber lying lurking at the side of the track, it gets jammed into the radiator honeycomb, and of course, being rubber, hot, sticky rubber, it's not that easy to get out.
That's true.
You just can't get the jolly stuff out.
Almost melts into place.
Pressure is intensified by John Field trying to become back-to-back P675 champion. We'll be back.
Speed Channel's coverage of the Petit Le Mans is being brought to you by Porsche. There is no substitute. Welcome back live to Road Atlanta. As you can see, the American Le Mans Series getting the sweeper truck out there to try to brush aside some of those rubber marbles that have been building up through the first 5 hours of this 10-hour race. There you see J.J. Lehto, the 38 ADT champion Audi, is back on track, still in the overall race lead. Calvin Fish has more.
Well, Bob, the question is, why have this team left that front fender on there with the massive holes? And the regulations state that you're not supposed to see the tire from a top aerial view. And in essence, what it's going to do is actually evacuate the air from underneath the nose a little bit better, and in fact, give it more downforce. Now, the regulations allow for you to keep it like that if the bodywork is damaged. So I spoke to the team. They said if we change the nose, we're just going to get a similar situation. And here last year, we had it where it kicked the nose up and broke one of the mounts. We don't want to get into that situation. We're just going to leave it as it is. Let's go down to Andrew Marriott with another report down pit lane.
Yeah, at the 37 car, they're just trying to clean these radiators out to try and get some more cooling effect. This car is very, very hot. Now, Hugh Chamberlain says they haven't got a penalty. He says there are 4 people working on the car, plus the engineer from Judd, and that's allowed. So he's just downloading some data at the moment, so I don't think we will see this penalty. They're just trying to get these radiators absolutely clean so that it will run that little bit cooler, but it's definitely worry time down here.
Still under caution here at Road Atlanta, and for the first time we see a GTS car coming up into the top 3. The last time we saw that happen at the end of the race was Australia in 2000, the race of 1,000 years in Adelaide. Peter Cox currently leads GTS and is 3rd overall.
Well, we have a moment. Caution flag of the race thus far. You ride with J.J. Lehto, a former star in Formula One and a longtime resident of Monte Carlo. Here's Lee Diffie with a closer look at a man who has been a star in a number of racing series.
I've been here since 1988 when I won the Formula 3 championship back in England. I just moved down here, and I've been here since then. There's always a nice weather, sunshine, very different to Finland. But it's just wherever you live, because you do motorsports, you travel all the time anyway, so it doesn't really mean that you live here, you travel anyway.
Despite his Tony address, JJ is true to his Scandinavian roots, and like most youngsters from Finland, his goals were in rallying, till his dad had other ideas.
I wanted to do rallying, and I had a rally car ready to go, and you know, my father just said that, well, he got me a Formula Ford, so I had to sell my rally car, and that was it. But I'm still doing it as a hobby, racing once a year during the winter time. I just kind of like it a lot, and the rallying is really, it's different comparing to racing, so it's like you need to have a good co-pilot, it's a teamwork, and it's a different kind of thing. Not all the race drivers, they can do rallying because they can't listen to co-pilot.
With guidance from none other than Keke Rosberg, JJ has enjoyed a successful and varied career, including F1, F3000 and rallying. Now, however, he feels he has found the perfect fit with the ALMS, the ADT champion team.
It's very relaxed. Everybody's friends, and you know, it's just easy to go wherever you want in a paddock. You can go and see the other teams, and nobody says that, you know, it's not allowed to come here, and you know, it's not serious. But once you put the helmet on, then it's serious. But that's, of course, it has to be that way.
That's J.J. Lehto. Ironically, both he and his current teammate Johnny Herbert are former Formula One teammates of 6-time world champion Michael Schumacher. We'll be back.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta, and a timely return right when the green flag is displayed. We are back to racing after our 7th full course caution as they jostle for positions. The Yerst Audi comes flying down the inside to get past a couple of the Ferraris. We've seen contact in exactly that same position before, but they get through fine this time round.
Boy, he gave Frank Wheeler there, definitely gave them the benefit of the doubt. He was down the inside, and he backed out and let that one Ferrari go through.
Yeah, he did. I think it was the same car, too. It's exactly what happened before, the number 88 car. So he decided that rather than risk possible contact, let's just wait for a corner or two.
The blue flag in the corner works there. Waving blue flags like one on paper anger in the gale, mate.
Those two 550 Maranellos, the red Ferraris, are fighting for outright honours in GTS. In the lead is Peter Cox. That's the first car you see. The second one is Jan Magnussen, fresh from driving in the V8 Supercar Bathurst 1000 last weekend. In fact, all 3 drivers in that car, David Brabham went back to Australia and raced in that race, and Anthony Davidson, who is of course the BAR Formula One test driver, flew in direct from Suzuka from the Japanese Grand Prix. So all of them having major overseas flights within the last week. So they're a little weary, but they're pumped up for this one.
Talking to Johnny O'Connell just a little bit ago, Lee Diffie, and he said that he thought the Ferraris would get into this. He said, we're just going to run a pace now and let those guys go battle. There's a lot of single-seater stars in those cars, and he really thinks there's going to come a competition within that team to see who can set the fastest laps of the race and potentially take the victory. So this is exactly what the Corvette boys expected, these 2 Ferraris to go at it and maybe run into trouble.
I have disappointment for the guys down at Corvette. The word from Ferrari is they are not allowed to race each other. Whoever's in front stays in front unless they're being held up by the car that's behind. The engineers will make that decision and tell the second car that he can go around. Other than that, it's more important to have 2 cars finish on the podium, they say. There will be no battling amongst the 88 and the 80s.
And they have had a clean sweep in in the last 3:37 is back out for a lap now, is returning back to pit lane. The problems continue for Duncan Dayton, and John Field may be seeing his championship hopes slip away.
Yeah, you know, hopefully they just went back out to give a lap to allow the engine to cool down, let it run with a clean radiator, and then maybe bring it back in and work on it some more. Look at the official in front.
So this is serving the penalty that Hugh Chamberlain mentioned to Andrew earlier that he wasn't going to get, but clearly he is.
Oh, well, there'll be some jumping up and down in there then, because if an engineer is allowed to work on a car who's not strictly speaking a mechanic, and they decide he can't, that will no doubt lead to some comments from Mr. Chamberlain.
Wow, he's going to serve a minute in pit lane. That must feel like forever. And we have got a new 675 class leader. Coming from the back, Scott Bradley on board, the former Star Mazda champion, runs off the circuit at 10A, gets it back just after 10B.
Well, the excitement of taking the lead obviously was too much for the lad.
Got it way too deep there under braking, but he is safely past it down the front straight. You see the 37 still sitting there as he goes past. There he is right there.
Yeah, the 18 car had a problem with a little electrical relay, which they've changed. That's the problem we saw earlier on. Mike Gouet tells me the car's running absolutely perfect now. The engineer who was working from Judd was actually pouring water into the car, and I think they're only allowed to plug the computer in and do things like that. So about 2 gallons of water went into that car, and I have to say I don't think it's going to go too much further, guys.
Well, that's different. If he's putting water in, that's doing a job that mechanics would do, so you're right.
Yeah, I've seen Brian Till try water on his computer, but I don't think these fellows are going to buy that one. So
Hey, look, when they turn around that turn 6, they turn right into the sun. That's going to be pretty troublesome for the next couple of hours for these guys.
One of the advantages they've had with the LMP cars, all of the open cars, they're looking over top of the windscreens, whereas in the GT cars, both Ferraris, Corvettes, and the Porsches, they're all looking through a windshield that's smeared with about 500 miles worth of racing and rubber and all kinds of grime on it.
That same rubber that plugs up the radiator spreads up the windscreen and makes and it's very difficult to get up.
As you're looking at a car with a very, very strong local connection. Scott Bradley driving, he of course from San Jose, California, but also on the driving straight, Andrew Davis from Lilburn, Georgia, just down the interstate from this racetrack, holds a marketing degree from the University of Georgia in Athens, not too far away from the racetrack. The third driver is Jason Workman, who lives in nearby Flowery Branch, Georgia, and is a 1995 graduate of the local high school, North Hall High School. He taught at the Panos Driving School here at Road Atlanta and raced open-wheeled cars way off in Scandinavia. Well, we've got a spinner, guys.
Tommy Dreesy in the 12, the Amerisweets, Riley and Scott. Tommy flicks it back around. The Risi Competizione Ferrari gets around Tommy, and Dreesy is heading in the right direction again. Been a pretty eventful day for that car. The trio of Mike Lewis, Melanie Patterson and Tommy Dreesy currently running 5th in the P900 class and 16th overall.
Chat with Tommy earlier. We saw him back in Miami in the American Le Mans race down there, but also in the Trans Am race, and he and his teammate Mike Lewis almost had a coming together when he blamed Mike for him going off the track into the barrier. So I was surprised you guys are still driving together. But they laugh about it, said, now it's just the heat of the moment.
Back to the Ferrari battle at the front of the GTS category. 1 and 2 in class, 3rd and 4th overall.
And that is the gap.
Yeah.
0.981 of a second. So they're turning laps at 120, whereas the GTS Corvette's turning laps of 123, 121. I tell you, when we were on board that car of fellows just about half an hour ago, you could tell the way he was driving that he was really driving to finish.
Yeah. Yeah, listen to the RPM. Well, back here we are on board right here. Very smooth.
Very smooth. I mean, no huge engine reversal there, just drifts into the corner.
Yeah,
look how easy he's going through here. I mean,
listen to Ronnie. If we can follow this to the end of the straight, maybe we'll hear it. But when he goes up over the top of the hill, he's actually short shifting so that he's not risking over revving the motor by running light, getting wheel spin. So,
but still, look at the speed.
Oh, it's fast. That's a strong car.
Guys, Guys, an interesting technicality as we watch this battle for GTS manufacturers' honors. Strictly speaking, it's not a factory war per se. Yes, the Corvette team are GM factory efforts. The Ferraris, however, all three of them are built by ProDrive in its shops in Banbury, England. You may have heard of that team in connection with a number of other motorsports ventures, including the World Rally Championship, and a principal in ProDrive, David Richards, also runs the BAR Honda Formula One team. These cars are owned by successful enthusiast Frederick Dorr, who owns Care Racing Development. As I mentioned in our first show of the day, similar cars to these, built by ProDrive, won, in fact, swept driver, team, and manufacturer honors in the FIA GT Championship this year. Ferrari, as a factory, has taken a fairly dim view of this effort, but there's nothing much that they can do about it because these cars are privately owned by Frederick Dorr. And I mean exactly what I say, privately owned, because he bought them right off the showroom floor. They take some of the body parts and the engines and make them race cars. In fact, the story goes one step farther. Buying the cars off the showroom floor is really just a figure of speech. Frederick Dorr bought these cars on the internet. David Hobbs, you're a car dealer. What does your standard Ferrari 550 Maranello sell for?
Depends who's buying it.
I don't know. I don't bother to look at the price of the cars like that.
A bit more than your average David Hobbs Honda, doesn't it?
Hey, you must have bought it on eBay, but I tell you what, if I was the team manager of that team, I wouldn't like the way those two guys are that close together. Seems to me to be ludicrous to be racing that close together.
I agree. One little slip.
Well, you run up close to a car in front of you, and the guy has to lift, the lead guy lifts, and boom.
And have a look at this as the one car continuing to push hard, come on its comeback with Frank Wheeler at the wheel, and the Panos is just immediately ahead, and Frank may be able to burst into the top 5 after being well down the order after that crash that we showed you a little earlier on. And speaking of Panos, a former team manager at Panos, Dave Price, is here this weekend, and he's working with that ProDrive team. And to allow you in on a sneak peek to next year, Dave Price may be running those ProDrive Ferraris as ProDrive move on to those new machines that we've let you in on earlier, the Aston Martins. Look at this as they get caught in traffic.
Man, downtown traffic. They have to be so careful at this point because you can't possibly watch every area around your own car.
Oh, coming out of that turn 5, you know there's a lot of glare as you come out. It's a fairly quick left down.
Look at the nose, David. Look at the left front corner there. It's lifting up. Wow.
They chose not to change it. Now they're going to be forced to change it.
Yeah, they are going to have to.
It's broken the back of it, and it's obviously lost its integrity there.
Jeez, I hope. Yeah, oh boy. I hope
they're flicking over his head.
Well, you know what? And we've seen like a lot of the teams now run complete banks of monitors so they can watch their cars around the whole track. I hope the champion fellas are looking at this so they can call them and tell them to come in the pit and take that thing off before it departs by itself.
What's happened out there, JJ has hit one of the curves pretty hard, and just as you mentioned, they're looking at those monitors, Bill, and they were aware of the situation. JJ radioed it in. Brad Kettler went over to the pit wall. He said, no, you're going to have to pit and fix that. So the team are ready, and he is in pit lane. So that healthy lead they have, they keep having these little glitches like the battery and now a nose change. That can be erased very quickly indeed. He hits the marks, team's going to take a look at it and see what they have to do. Now, there's one thing to change the top. If they have to go to that bottom piece, that's a much lengthier repair, so they're going to have to wait until they get the top of the bodywork off, then sort of like take a look-see here. I don't think nothing too much wrong with the main splitter part, so this will be a quick fix, just an unscheduled pit stop, and he should be back underway shortly.
Well, I wonder if he was forced over the curb by lapping a slower car, because at this point, I'm sure JJ and Johnny are both in very much of a cruise mode, but now we're going to get back to the thing, is this battery problem going to resurface? Let's see if this car will fire up.
And they're refueling at the same time as well, making the most of this stop. The car fires up, not a problem.
Excellent.
So the order is still Lehto, Max Pappas, Peter Cox, Jan Magnussen, and Gunnar Jeanette, the top 5 in this race at the moment. And our 2 GTS cars in amongst that top 5 are running very, very strongly. 675 class leader remains to be Scott Bradley, and GT class leader is now Timo Bernard. We'll be back.
Welcome back. Speed Channel, of course, is your home for the World Rally Championship. This weekend's round takes place in France. Check out our extended coverage tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The World Rally Championship. The world's greatest drivers, only on Speed Channel. Back at Road Atlanta, number 23, McKenna Porsche from Alex Job Racing is in the pit lane. Approaching 5 o'clock Eastern Time. The shadow's growing very long in the pit lane, and with daylight savings time days away yet, we will be racing into the darkness in a very short time here at the Petit LeMans. Back to the booth.
As far as mileage is concerned, we have just crept over the halfway mark. As far as time is concerned, we are well over the halfway mark. So as we mentioned earlier, this is looking like it's going to hit the 10-hour mark before the 1,000-mile mark, which has never happened before in the previous 5 years of the Petit Le Mans run here at Road Atlanta.
Well, those long caution periods have really stymied that. They got off to a cracking start, pole position at 127 miles an hour. They would have done it easily, but we've had a lot of caution periods this year, long ones.
Yeah, this car may be something to watch. I just got a report that the reason they come into the pits
got to be something wrong,
is that they are having problems with oil pressure fluctuations. So, man, oh man, things aren't. That looks like it's bouncing a lot right there across that corner. I don't think that was all the curb on the inside that created it either.
Fluctuations.
Just speaking of that time versus miles, here's the history from when it started. Actually, there was one race run in 1998, but since it's been in the American Le Mans series from 99 through now, have a look there, 9 hours 27, etc., etc. Never have we gone to the 10-hour mark, but today looks like it will go that way. And that was because we already had 7 cautions, and one of them was very, very long. I think it was around the half-an-hour mark, so that really slowed things down.
One of the strangest courses we must have ever seen in ALMS, when Larry Alberto stuck with Banana Joe's car under the flatbed car, the truck that was already out there.
That was scary.
But it was very scary. Luckily, he spun and went in backwards. If he got in forwards, it would have been horrendous.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
As we continue to watch the Alex Job Porsche, Bill, an email that's directed to you from Bob Nelson in Shasta Lake, California. You were saying something regarding the ACO, what they should do to help the ALMS with their schedule before being distracted by the hole in the front of the bodywork on the Champion Audi. Could you please finish what you were saying regarding the ACO, where that was going?
Well, the one thing that it's always struck me strange is that they do have the Le Mans trials, which are a month prior to the race itself. It would seem very logical if they held those trials even 2 weeks prior to the event itself. It would save a lot of money for the teams. They'd go over there, do the trial, stay there, do a little bit of practice, and then have the race, rather than teams having to go over, spend a heck of a lot of money, and then come back to this country. Plus, by getting rid of the trial, it would allow a race to be held in this country without interfering with Le Mans.
Good point. Brian Till is focusing on GTS here today. Brian, what's happening?
Well, I'm down here behind the pit area, and what really makes these cars go is tires. You see the Goodyear tires that just came off the 675 car, the Banana Joe's car, but as you walk down behind the GTS pit of Pro Drive, you see all the Michelin tires that they have here. Michelin actually has a tire designed for each 10-degree increment of ambient air temperature that they have. You can see notes written on all the tires here. As you walk down this way, you see a tire that has night written on it. They're the compound that they'll run at night. You've got tires that say soft, other tires that say hard. They've got them, like I said, in 10-degree increments, because in reality, it doesn't really matter how much horsepower, what kind of brakes, or even what kind of suspension you have on the car. If you don't have the right tires on it, it's not going to be able to take advantage of all those advances that you've made to that chassis. And in addition to a manufacturer's, as far as the chassis go, it's also a manufacturer's war as far as the tire wars go.
That's right. I mean, it is a business as well as a sport, and Michelin and Goodyear are pretty determined and very focused on that as far as the GTS category. I think it is if Goodyear finishes third, which of course they're on board the Corvettes, they will win the GTS tire manufacturers battle. They've already clinched the 675 category.
I thought Brian looked better in that Michelin outfit the other day, actually. Did you? Yeah.
And I think that for equal time that if he does this again, he's got to dress up like the blimp.
I thought it made my hips look big.
Of course, we've seen in Formula One this year the tire wars, the end-all tire wars between Bridgestone and Michelin. Michelin making a lot of progress. Tremendously successful in sports car racing for a long time, but their Formula One success has been a long time coming. But this year made huge gains. And of course, we've got other tyre companies in this race today, a lot of them. Toyota, Pirelli, Yokohama, a lot of major tyre manufacturers putting a lot of money into this series because the ALMS series is a classic sports car series.
Well, they do learn a lot.
Next year.
Yeah, I mean, they do learn a lot that does get applied directly to our street tires, so it's valuable.
Race updates on the 88 and the 80, the Pro Drive Ferrari team, the team that I like to call the United Nations of sports car racing. The Italian car that's based in England, it's owned by the Frenchman who lives in Switzerland, and the drivers are from Switzerland, from France, from Australia, from Holland, all over the place. The Czech Republic, it really is a melting pot of nationalities involved in that whole outfit.
And they eat at the Butcher's Arms, which is a restaurant deep in the British countryside owned by a Portuguese family.
And you used to drink there.
Jägermeister.
I'm going there the week after next, mate. Yes. First stop, the old plane touches down, I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, they won't be able to hear that free plug you just gave them, so bad luck.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay.
Not for the first one. I tell you what, these two guys, when they're coming up to lap a car like that, it seems to me the height of irresponsibility for these two guys to be that close together, weaving through slow traffic. Especially if they had team orders to say, whoever's in front stays in front, just drop back.
Yeah.
Give yourself a bit of breathing.
How often have you seen it where the following car gets pitched off by a car being passed because they
What if it pitches one of those big lumps of rubber up?
Yeah, pretty easy to do.
Bang right through the radiator or...
That is the other difficulty too, is that the following car doesn't get the clear field of vision. So if the leader swerves over a little bit to miss something suddenly, the following car is going to hit him.
Yeah, if the lead car suddenly sees a bracket lying in the road that somebody else has dropped there and swerves to miss it, the other guy hasn't got a chance.
Yep.
The first Scarlet Ferrari is the Dutchman Peter Cox, and right behind is the Danish driver Jan Magnussen. First and second in class, third and fourth overall. Here's a speed comparison over the last 3 laps for you between these two cars, and of course Peter Cox, Thomas Enger and Jamie Davis won GTS at the 24 Hours of Le Mans and won it easily. That was their high point of the year, but Cox and Enger and their teammate for this race, Alain Menu, they are yet to win in the American Le Mans Series in 2003 and would dearly love to do it today.
They have come close a number of times. They've had a couple of seconds. I think they were, I think back at...
well, they've had 3 seconds, yeah.
Second place at Mosport. They were second at Laguna and were disqualified for a technical infraction. They were second again at Miami, but second just doesn't quite satisfy.
And you want to talk to Thomas Enger about that? You don't think he's frustrated? No. He is enormously frustrated and desperately wants that win. Teams going hard at it as the sun begins to drop here at Road Atlanta. We've got a fair amount of time still left under daylight before we go nighttime racing.
Welcome back to the Petit LeMans. Coming up at 6 o'clock Eastern Time when we break away, Winston Cup Happy Hour action from Martinsville, Virginia. That's coming up next when we send you away at 6 o'clock Eastern Time to rejoin you at 7 and take you to the conclusion of today's Petit LeMans. Let's dip into our email bag once again. Robin has emailed the question, does any driver have to do a maximum amount of stints during a race? If so, discount the fact of dehydration, heat, all wear factors. May a driver drive the whole 10 hours if he wanted to? Robin, the answer is no. There are strict limits on how much time a driver can spend in a car. Each driver in the car, to win points and be counted in whatever the car scores, must do at least 10% of the distance the car goes. No driver may do more than 4 of any 6-hour stretch, and under no circumstances can a driver do more than 7 hours total of the 10 hours in the race. I hope that answers your question. If you'd like to email us here at the racetrack, just log on to speedtv.com, hit the email link. Your question or comment will come right to us here at Road Atlanta, where the sun is beginning to draw low in the sky as we approach 5 o'clock Eastern Time. Let's get back now to David Hobbs, Bill Adam, and Lee Diffie.
You see the two Audis here, the ADT champion Audi after that front end change, and Frank Fielder as he comes through traffic, and Frank is the man on the move. While we're away, Frank has pushed those GTS cars out of the top 3, particularly Peter Cox. The Yost Audi #1 is back in 3rd overall, 7 laps down on JJ Lehto out in front, but Frank is on the move. and is poised to get his first American Le Mans Series driver's crown, and he will share that with Marco Werner.
Boy, that long lens when they're weaving their way through that traffic there. Oh, right.
He is in position right now, running third in class to be the champion, so he is perfect at this moment.
He's cranking out a time at the moment that would have put him third on the grid at 1:13.7 that last run. That is a good lap, especially as we know.
I think if everything goes well from here on in and Frank and Marco can clinch that driver's title, that will go a long way in help erasing those terrible memories of Le Mans this year where Frank, by his own admission, it was his fault, miscalculated, tried to pass the Panos on the way into the pits. He was forced to go another lap driving for Audi UK and ran out of fuel.
I think that was every driver's nightmare. And just earlier, here is what happened. Just watch the top of the screen as he's coming down these ultra-fast S's. Gets sideways and then hard into that barrier.
That GTS car, the Viper there, dark blue Viper, I must admit, looking at that picture there, looked like it was going to give him room. It got a lot of room, and suddenly it closed the door and Frank had to take evasive action.
Yeah, and I think probably the remarkable thing that we've talked about so many times over the past couple of years is the strength of the Audis. I don't think there has never been another race car that could take that sort of an impact and get fixed in 11 minutes and return and run trouble-free again.
Well, of course, Reinhold Jost in particular, even more so than, say, the champion team, has developed a sort of quick fix business on the cars where you could change, I mean, we saw how quick he changed the rear end there, changed the complete gearbox and rear suspension in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, even the Audi themselves, they have set new standards for longevity for the engine. I mean, for race engines, it used to be with a small block Chevrolet, you'd try to get like 10 or 12 hours of rebuild in that general range, and a Porsche you'd get 25 or 30, something like that. The Audi are regularly doing 80 hours.
Whoa, he's run off again.
Again.
On the other side of the circuit, but in exactly the same place. And that was a lucky escape once again for Frank Biela.
Wow, we don't know what he did to the underneath of the car, but that was a very unfortunate move of Frank's. It's just about 2 corners further on the way.
Look
they
at the
see
nose.
the nose all jammed up with rubber grass.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff just blocking that inlet right there. That was remarkable. Oh, that could easily have been disaster.
That was on the approach to turn 5. You come through those rights and lefts.
Let's take another look at it.
Just misses the apex. Gets out onto that rolled-up rubber that we've been looking at. The sweeper was out earlier. At which point he will have absolutely no grip at all.
And had the presence of mind to stay off the throttle, keep the steering wheel straight, and made that look very, very easy.
Well, I'm sure he'll come into for an exploratory look.
Reinhold Jost said earlier at Frank's incident, that was like a heart attack for me. Well, I think he may have just had another one.
Yeah. Wow, he stays out.
So Biela continues on. You may have noticed on that previous race update, he spent 20 minutes in the pits total today, and 13 of those were due to that accident earlier today. Let's hope he doesn't have to add any more significant time to that figure.
Well, I hope they're watching. Well, of course, they have telemetry on the pits. They must be watching the temperatures.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. You know, again, it points out to the viewers that it's something where the concentration required is so serious, it has to be sustained so perfectly. He was only off the ideal line. He only off the ideal place that he wanted his car by a couple of feet. And yet the amount of grip, the difference in traction was huge.
Which of course makes it very difficult as the race progresses to overtake people, because you can't afford to go offline to get around them, which you would normally early on in the race. You'd be able to do it easy, but as the race progresses, it becomes more and more difficult to overtake.
What was kind of funny in some kind of way, I guess it was funny for me, maybe not for the Jost team, is the fact they saw the replay, not realizing it was a replay of Frank's earlier crash. Suddenly the mechanics were scurrying around, and then to their relief, they realized it was a replay from the earlier shot. So just as they're laughing at each other, patting each other on the back, the next time they look up, and Frank runs off the racetrack going through the S's again. So right now they're on attention, certainly waiting to see if there's any report from Frank on if the car is handling okay, but right now I think they're going to keep him out there.
It's a pretty rare sight. You don't often see Jost drivers doing those kinds of things, but luckily Biela is still on track and everything is going okay.
Look at the
well,
smoke
there's
up
been
ahead.
a lot of smoke down up ahead, heading down
what
into the
is that?
S's. There has been a major spin or something down there. We don't see anyone off to the side of the track.
No.
Was that the Panos GT car involved? The 03, the Hypersport entry. They perhaps spun and gathered it back up again. That was a lot of smoke.
There was a lot of smoke,
Everything appears to be okay on the car. So a close call there. Time for a quick break from Road Atlanta. As we go to the break, we'll check out the podium boards, the top 3 in each of our 4 categories in the American Le Mans Series, the series that boasts European style with American attitude.
Be sure to tune into Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain Monday through Thursday nights at 9 p.m. only on Speed Channel for a discussion of the day's events, guests, along with your emails and phone calls. Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. To Calvin Fish in the pit lane.
Well, Frank Peeler leaves his pit box having come in. They made a precautionary stop. Here you see all the grass and dirt on the floor. When he had that off going down through the S's, he absolutely filled the radiator grills up, and that will overheat these engines very quickly, Bob. So that was the reason for the stop. It was just we also hear that they get really high brake temperatures, so also clogged up the brake ducts as well. So they really just got to try and get this thing to that 70% mark. Then maybe they'll take a bit more of a gamble. But right there was an easy call for them. They had to come and make the pit stop.
By my unofficial count, they're within 50 laps or so of that 70% mark. So it's nail-biting time for the Infineon Yost Audi team and for Frank Biela, who has seen 2 of his former teammates in this team that was once a factory team for Audi go on to the championship. This could be Frank Biela's year. He is an original member of this team. Let's go back to the announce booth.
And what a team that has been. Last year, Tom Christensen clinched the driver's title. The year before, it was Manuel Pirro and Alan McNish in 2000. It's been 3 and now 4 wonderful years for the Yost Audi organization. And today, Biela and Werner can cap it off. If the race were to end right now, this would be the point scenario. Biela and Werner would finish 7 ahead of JJ Lehto.
You look back at what ifs. If Johnny Herbert hadn't made the mistake at Mosport trying to pass that Porsche up going up to turn 8, put their car out so late in the race. Little tiny things. Yeah. My heavens.
And of course, if Johnny Herbert had not driven the Bentley at Sebring.
So Biela continues on. He currently is back in 5th position at the moment. It's Lehto, Pappas, Cox, Magnussen, then Frank. Gunnar Jeanette for Panos runs in 6th for the final race for those guys under the Panos banner in those cars that will either be retired or purchased if someone wishes to do so. Johnny O'Connell for Corvette running 7th overall and 3rd in class ahead of Andy Pilgrim, the 2nd Corvette. In 9th, it's the GT class leader Timo Bernard, and Jerome Polican in that 3rd ProDrive Ferrari runs 5th in class and 10th overall.
Must be a bit of a frustrating days for the Corvette guys. Remember back at the start of the year when they had the race here, that Ollie Gavin and Andy Pilgrim, they had just a spectacular victory here, big celebration on the stand. You know, the Ferrari team, the ProDrive guys, I think have just done such a good job bringing up this challenge. And the Corvette guys actually like the challenge, much like what Albert Springer talked about it. He was happy to see, Albert Springer was happy to see how Ferraris are coming along with 360 Modena, providing the Porsche RSRs, gee, there's a shade out of the past, David. GT3Rs.
Freudian slip.
With a lot more competition and kind of spurring their engineers into action. The Corvette fellas like this too. This is good competition, keeps everybody sharp and on their toes.
And of course, as Ryan Till just said a few moments ago when he was walking through the pits with all those tyres, you know, the Michelin tyre certainly seems to be just a little bit better in this class of competition. And if you want to play these games and get involved, you've got to be prepared to spend the money on development and research. And maybe, you know, Goodyear needs to just try a little bit harder. They had a good run because the car was so superior before.
Yes.
Now it's clear that the car needs all the help it can get.
No, just a second ago too, there we saw another thing that's entering into it more and more every lap is that glare on the windshield.
Oh, they're terrible. Yeah,
really bad. And it makes it very difficult when you're coming up to lap or to pass people. You've got to be extra careful and make sure that you're taking every precaution.
Guy weaving around behind us.
Another email question for either of you two guys. The first one's from Joel from New York City. He has two questions. I'll ask them both together. Is ProDrive racing Aston Martins in GTS next year? Second question, is Lamborghini coming to ALMS next year?
I will defer that one to Bill.
Yeah, I had a chat with the people from ProDrive back at Miami and did my best to pin them down to that Aston Martin question, because I've heard all these rumors myself, and they stayed remarkably political and closed-mouthed, going, yeah, well, we've talked to them, but we really can't, and they couldn't answer, or more accurately, they wouldn't answer. So I hope they do come back next year.
Well, Andrew Marriott has more on these questions. Go, Andrew.
With the Aston Martin situation, I think they're still waiting for Ford to give them the go-ahead, because obviously Ford now owns Aston Martin. Graham Humphries has worked on the design of the car and they're ready to go, but I'm not sure that the directors have actually given it the green light. As far as the Lamborghini is concerned, that is definitely coming. It's now part of the Audi group. In fact, tomorrow at Monza, the Lamborghini will make its debut in the FIA sports car race, and it's got none other than Tom Christensen driving it. So that is definitely coming to the ALMS, and it'd be great to see a Lambo, won't it? They see North America as their biggest market, so let's look forward to the Lambos and hopefully also the Astons.
And guess who's
well,
riding
Andrew, you're the man. Is Jost going to run the Lamborghini?
No, I believe not. I think Martin Haven probably knows a bit more about this. I believe it's an outfit called Reiter Engineering who have been involved in these cars and building them up. But I suppose it's possible that Jost might run them.
Reiter Engineering is the company that's running the Lamborghini this weekend at Monza, but that is really just a cover. They've run their own version of Lamborghini Diablos the last couple of years. As Andrew says, it's done Audi wind tunnel development. I believe it even has Audi R8 suspension elements, so it's not just a straightforward privateer car. One car that we know is likely to be around any year there's sports car racing is Porsche. Now, right here, Jörg Bergmeister, you started off being hit by the Zero car. You lost a door and 2 laps. How did you get back in the lead of this class?
Actually, we were a little bit lucky. In the second safety car, we gained 1 lap, and the others had to pit under greens, and we made it to the second yellow. So we were actually lucky to were hit by them. So now we have quite a comfortable lead over the Ferrari with almost 1.5 laps, and hopefully it stays like this.
Now, everybody knows that you have ups and downs in racing, but to really see that in the opening few minutes of the race and just to see the car almost destroyed, it must be a bit of a surprise still to be here.
Actually, in this season, nothing surprised me anymore because we had really some tough luck this year, and yeah. But right now, everything's fine, and the car's running really good, even with the damage, and yeah, just great.
So now, 5:15 in the evening, you've only just got a bit more than 1 American Le Mans Series race left to complete. Good luck, we'll see you later.
They really are the tall and the short of the situation. Jörg Bergmeister and Timo Bernard, two very quietly spoken young Germans who are lovely young fellows, and I really felt for Bergmeister at Miami, whether it was his fault or whether it was the rain that caught him out, and he was distraught after he crashed the car when they were in a very strong position there. So great to see them up front. And let's revisit what happened to these guys earlier in the day here at Road Atlanta. Take a look at this. Emmanuel Nespetti spins. He starts to creep forward, and bang, contact with the 24. That's where the passenger side door got ripped off and damage to the undertrain. That's why you see all the tape, the spare door. It's looking rather second-hand, but there's nothing second-hand about its performance out in front.
Of course, that had happened a split second earlier, and hit the front of that car. As we said earlier, behind all that nice bodywork in the front is all the high-tech radiators and oil radiators. It would have been nasty.
It'll be a timed race here at Road Atlanta. The Petit LeMans, the final round of the American Le Mans Series for 2003. You're looking at the second PK Sport entry, Romeo Capuglia, the car 80, the ProDrive Ferrari car, a very close moment a few moments ago. Brian.
Well, we see some damage to the front end of the car. It looks like Magnussen will get out. David Brabham will take over the wheel of the number 80 ProDrive Ferrari 550. A lot of rubber marks on the front end of this car, and what you've got to begin to worry about when you look down at the right front, you start to see some of the dive planes. The splitters are missing off the front. cars are very sensitive to aerodynamics, and once you start taking pieces off the front end of these things, you start to lose the front end, and the handling goes away. When the handling goes away, you start to get tire wear issues. We've already talked about those guys. You've got to have the right tires on the car to do the job. They will change tires now. They fuel, they did a driver, they double stinted these Michelins most of the day. They'll continue to do that.
Let's take a look at exactly what happened. Bill, talk us through, and David mentioned this right at the top of the show about coming through traffic with the different classes.
Well, down at the bottom of the S's, he didn't want to get held up coming through this slow left-hander, and you can see just that little bit of nudging with the corner. Now, both cars did continue, and I think part of the Ferrari stop is maybe for safety, to make sure there's no damage to that tire. Here is the Porsche limping around the track. He did make a stop once, had one of the track marshals at the side of the track take a look at the nose of the car, couldn't see anything wrong, signaled him on.
Should Magnussen have been a little more patient?
Yes, he should have.
Well, we'd like to welcome to the Speed Announce booth right now President and CEO of the Panos Motorsports Group and the American Le Mans Series, a regular visitor here during the round, Scott Atherton. Scott, great to see you again, and thoughts on the race so far?
Well, you couldn't ask for much more excitement. I mean, I'm just shocked at the amount of activity on track, given the conditions. I mean, it's just such idyllic conditions out here. It's amazing how much, attrition and call it on-track activity.
We've got lots to talk to you about. Please stick around. We need to get back down to pit lane. And Brian.
The leading GTS car is in the 88. Thomas Inga has taken over from Peter Cox. This car, too, has damage. You look down on the left front of this car where the brake duct system is. You can see that there's body damage down on the front. I don't know what it is, if it's the big chunks of rubber that are coming off the racetrack, but the front end of these ProDrive Ferraris is taking a beating.
And that's how you exit pit lane in a hurry. Nice work from the ProDrive Ferrari team. Back with it with Scott Atherton. And the most pressing news, Scott, yesterday you held a press conference here at Road Atlanta announcing the 2004 schedule for the American Le Mans Series. 9 rounds is what we had this year, and you've scheduled 9 rounds for next year. Tell us more about it.
9 rounds, it's a good fit for us. It basically covers all of the world-class road racing venues that are in North America. 2 brand new additions with an event at Lime Rock, and I guess a return to Portland, and also return to Mid-Ohio. Could not be more pleased. It's a calendar that I am very confident that we can fulfill on.
Usually we see, just being informed, there's been a stop-and-go penalty applied to the 80 ProDrive Ferrari. They will be fuming, and I imagine that may be for a pit lane speed violation. And in fact, we know exactly why it was contact with the PK Sport car. Brian.
Here with Jan Magnussen. Jan, you just got out of the 80 car. We noticed it had a penalty. Do you know why?
Contact with a Porsche. I think it's grossly unfair to give a penalty for that. You know, the difference in standard here is just sometimes too big. And when they open the door and we take a gap, don't open the door then.
Difficult conditions right now with the sun low in the sky. The way it is, the sun low in the sky. Is it hard to see out there right now?
Just really turn 5. That's the just really turn 5.
Well, difficult conditions like you said out there, and the contact, all these different classes of cars makes it very, very close racing quarters, guys.
Jan Magnussen, who clinched the Danish Touring Car Championship last weekend in his homeland, and he's not having such an enjoyable time here. Romeo Caputia brings the PK Sport Porsche back into pit lane with some much-needed attention.
Yeah, I bet that's why he stopped. Maybe he asked the track marshal to have a look at the front end because he felt something wrong, and that's exactly what it is, the bent left front wheel because of the contact with the Ferrari.
David Brabham serves the stop and go and is released. So the ProDrive Ferrari's race is starting to unravel after a pretty successful start, and opening first half, things are starting to happen, so it could be rewarding for the patience of Corvette. We'll wait and see. Still a long way to go. Time to take a quick break from Road Atlanta. Scott Atherton, President and CEO of the American Le Mans Series, will stick around for another segment, and we'll continue to ask those questions that hopefully you would ask Scott if you were here. Stick with us.
All my dreams, never no rider.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta, where the sun continues to sink low in the sky as you ride with race leader J.J. Lehto in his Audi. Let's get a quick summary of recent action in the pit lane, beginning with Calvin Finch.
Well, Bob, we just had the number 10 machine pit, and Olivier Beretta got in behind the wheel. Max Pappas jumping out. The team were a little miffed. Early we saw that pit stop infraction where the team went to change the wheel before the refueling was complete. We saw the car delayed before it went back onto the racetrack. They then made the decision that that penalty could not be served under caution, and hence we saw another drive-through for Max Pappas. But other than that, everything is running pretty smooth with the 10 machine, and they just keep chipping away at it, hoping for bronze with the champion racing outfit. Maybe they can get to the top spot of the podium. Brian?
Down in GTS, we saw the 80 ProDrive Ferrari come in. He had contact on his in lap and then had to serve a penalty after they changed drivers. He brought it in. The 88 car was in and out with a driver change. And then the 08 car came in. Jerome Polican very upset as he got out of the car. The reason why, he saw a pit board that said in. It said 88, not 08. He was in 7 laps too early. The guys told him to keep going, but he had already released his belts. So he said, I'm done, guys. I've got to stop. They came in early, and that really hurt those guys in their bid to put that car up on the podium. Martin?
Back at Road Atlanta, and President and CEO of the American Le Mans Series, Scott Atherton, is with us and answering your email questions. This one from Bill. No city provided there. Scott, tell us more about the 04 season, which now has combined schedules with the SCCA Pro Racing Speed World Challenge Series. The announcement was posted on the SCCA website. What's that all about?
Well, it's Steve Johnson and I have talked about this, Steve being the president of the SCCA, for many years, and we finally decided to do something about it. The World Challenge we see as a perfect complement to an American Le Mans Series weekend. We do a lot of races with them already. We have a lot of reasons that we can share equipment and resources where the efficiencies benefit both series. It's right now, I think, arguably the combined 2 series on one weekend makes the best overall road racing weekend in the world. And I challenge anyone to put something up against us. So it's a perfect fit. It's going to benefit both. We're going to have the best shared practices policy between the 2 organizations, and I think both will clearly benefit.
Good news there. I mentioned before the break that we'll ask you some of the questions that the fans would more than likely ask you and pertaining to the 04 schedule. And I'd love to know as a fan as well, no 3 Rivers on next year's schedule and no Miami. What's the deal?
Well, anyone that's followed the series closely knows that we've received some criticism for announcing one schedule and fulfilling something else other than that. And this year, our criteria for placing an event on the calendar and then making it part of our public announcement was extreme in that it had to be absolutely rock solid. In both instances, there was reason for us to consider that there's at least a chance that that event might not happen, and as a result, it's not on our schedule.
Let's get down to pit lane. There's problems at the Corvette camp, Brian.
Well, the tortoise, if you will, is in. It's been tortoise and hare between the Ferraris and the Corvettes, and it looked like the Corvettes may have been running well in the pace they needed to. But they've come in for a routine stop. Johnny O'Connell got out, Frank Freon got in. They did fuel, they did tires, and now the car, it will not restart. They've rocked it back and forth several times. It was almost like it was stuck in gear, but there seems to be no juice to this thing, no electricity. It will not fire, and they're digging now underneath the tunnel. It could be because it's stuck in gear, because it looks like they've gone to the linkage on the transmission to try to sort that out. They're taking covers off inside the car on the tunnel, trying to get this car out of gear so it can be restarted.
First it was Ferrari, now Corvette. They're both experiencing some negatives. Scott, just getting back to that press conference yesterday, it was called the State of the Series, and interestingly enough, your boss and I can say good friend, Dr. Don Panos, the founder of this fine series, was pretty certain and pretty definite about saying to everyone point blank, I'm not sick, I'm not retiring, nothing's for sale, I'm going nowhere, this series is staying as it is. Yes, I am going to Australia, I've bought a house down there for holiday with my wife. Relax, everything is all right.
I don't know what it is, but we seem to attract some of the craziest rumors. Maybe it's just motorsports in general, but yeah, Don did an excellent job yesterday of quieting a lot of the scuttlebutt and a lot of the... It's probably not nearly as much fun to go to the bar around here anymore because all those things have been dispelled. But yeah, we're solid. We are 100 miles an hour straight ahead.
Worrying times at Corvette. Brian.
Guys, they continue to work on the number 3 Corvette, and what it appears to be, they think it could be the flywheel. It does seem to have electricity. They are rocking it back and forth in gear because the starter will not engage. It turns over, but it makes a horrible grinding sound. It's like it will not engage to fire this car up.
Boy, and remember a couple of years ago, another flywheel that came back to bite a team was Alex Job on their final stop at Sebring. Their number 2 car, the flywheel had broken, the starter refused to engage, and they had a 1-2 finish taken away by just this thing. So
this is going to make that stop, that last stop from the 08 ProDrive Ferrari, even more agonizing. The problems continue for Corvette. They try to fire the car. We need to squeeze in a quick commercial break here from Road Atlanta. We thank President and CEO of the American Le Mans Series, Scott Atherton. Enjoy the rest of the race, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you, Lee.
And the Corvette is going behind the wall. Problems continue there. We'll update you with more on that when we return. Live with you here at Road Atlanta at the Petit LeMans. We're in the closing stages of our second show. However, more coverage coming up later tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on Speed, and we will take you right through to the checkered flag and post-race activities as well from Road Atlanta, and we'll be well and truly into the nighttime there. That's our third and final show. We'll take you to the finish, 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. More work going on the 3 car. What do you make of this, Bill?
Well, I don't know. I think they're trying to take enough pieces off right now to see if they can find out what happened, but maybe just to explain to our viewers, because we saw the crew push start the car and then the car fired up. So those of you are saying, well, why not just keep going? You can't. You have to actually start the car yourself, and sometimes what a crew will do is push start and then shut it off to refire the car by its own power. You are not allowed to continue in the race after a push start. So they chose to fire it with a push, pull it around back, and they're probably going to change the ring gear, the teeth, on the outside edge of the flywheel so the starter can engage itself. The flywheel itself must have worked. That's up against the clutch, and it would have to work. But the ring gear, I think that's the problem.
We know that you love this part of the telecast, so we'll give you some more. It's time to enjoy the sounds of speed with the Finn, JJ Lehto. Onboard the Alex Job Racing 23 McKenna Porsche. Lucas is currently second in GT. the young German Mike Rockenfeller. He's currently running. He's a member of the Porsche Junior team, and he is competing. This is his second year in the Porsche Carrera Cup in Germany. First ever race in the American Le Mans Series. He's teamed with regulars Peter Barron and Leo Hendry and has done a wonderful job today. They sit 4th in class. Another session of the Sounds of Speed. The breaking news story at the moment is the Corvette situation with the newly crowned GTS Drivers' Champions, Johnny O'Connell and Ron Fellows. The third driver today, Frank Frigon. What's the situation, Brian Till?
Well, Lee, what you see hanging here is the gearbox. They're going to actually change the gearbox on this car in order to change the starter. And I know that sounds very bizarre. I'm sure Bill can add more on this, but the starter is located in a different place than it would be on your street car. It's actually back in the gearbox itself. So they're going to drop the back end out of this thing. It has a racing transmission in it. It's got 2 brand new starters on this gearbox. They'll put it in and see if that cures the problem.
The closing rounds of this 2003 championship, despite them clinching that driver's title, Bill, are rounds that they would, I'm sure, Doug Feehan and the boys would rather forget, because their patience has been tested on more than one front.
Yeah, it really has. I think they've suffered a couple of very, very unusual failures, and even driver errors too, like Oliver Gavin's crash at Postport. I'd hardly believe that happened, because he is just so good in these cars, but they can.
Corvette boys working harder than what they would have liked today here at Road Atlanta. That's what endurance sports car racing, though, is all about.
Coming to the pit shortly as you see the overall race leader, Johnny Herbert, head out in his Audi R8. Let's get an update with Calvin Fish in the pit lane.
Well, it was a routine stop here. J.J. Lehto having jumped out of the car and Johnny Herbert getting in. But those fenders, once again, that pickup is still there. And then absolutely exploded those little louvers on the top of the front fenders on this champion Audi. But the lap time is good. Everything seems to be running like clockwork thus far. Again, they're going for their second victory here at Road Atlanta this season. But we're on the GT battle. Let's go down to Martin Haven.
It looks ugly, but it runs sweet. The 24 Alex Joe car has just made its routine pit stop. It's off the pit stop schedule of all its rivals, though. Nobody seems to be running at the same pit stop interval. They've just changed over Timo Bernhardt to Jörg Bergmeister, and they took a little bit of extra oil on. Seems like it's thirsty for driver and car. Andrew, you have more.
Yeah, on the 675 class, the 37 car, now the temperature's come down. I just talked to Phil, the engineer from Judd, and he says now the engine's running absolutely fine. They're happy with that. And they are closing in on the Jason Workman car. They've got about a lap to go, but they are catching it 2 or 3 seconds a lap.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew Marriott. 4 classes of car in competition here in the American Le Mans Series. The LMP 900s, the LMP 675s. You just saw Duncan Dayton making his way around in that Lola with a Judd V8 engine in it, as well as the 2 production-based classes for GTS and GT. Let's get back to the race call with Lee Diffie, Bill Adam, and David Hobbs.
Interesting addition on the 37 there, one of their team members this weekend, Rossella Manfrenato, just helping out. Oh, we see the 03 Panos GT car in the tyre barrier. And let's hope everything's all right there for Rick Skelton. It's not the first time we've seen that car spin today.
Flag. Look.
And let's have a look at what has happened. That may not have been Rick's fault. If there is oil down on the circuit, maybe Rick brought the oil out, maybe it was already there.
Oh, man.
That's a heavy hit.
Yeah, he started that really early.
That is a very heavy hit.
And that also is at the top of turn 2, I believe.
Yep. I think you're right, David. So I expect this will bring out another piece.
No, he lost
it.
Probably.
Here we go again.
He probably lost it going through turn 1 and spun right around the top, over the top of the hill, slamming into the barrier there. So bring out the full course caution to remove the debris and the voiture itself.
Well, that's our 8th caution of the day, but it's been our longest run, in excess of almost 60 laps, just shy of 60 laps of green running. So that was a good stint, but it has been littered with cautions today here at Road Atlanta in the Petit LeMans. And it has been a very, very eventful day for a variety of teams, and certainly not in a positive manner. It's the Panos GT car that has come to a stop in an abrupt fashion. The fans have enjoyed a wonderful day of racing and of weather. It has been simply beautiful here in Georgia today. Cloudless skies all day long, and we had a beautiful sunrise here this morning when we all arrived at about 10 to 7, and we'll have a wonderful sunset as well on one of the landmark events in the American Le Mans Series. Time to take a quick break. We'll be back.
Welcome back. Still under caution for the 8th time today, and the pit stop action has begun. Let's go to Calvin Fish.
The number 1 Yost machine is in, and they are trying to chase down that number 10 Panos. They're within 3 laps, so haven't lost all of that time with a major damage. They're really on a charge now. Marco Werner is getting in. It's going to be a fresh set of Michelins, and we expect these guys to double stint the rest of the way. So these guys are in good form. They've got a good race car underneath them, and that's just a testimony to the strength and durability of this R8 machine. The fact they can stick in the fence as hard as they did and come back and run fast lap times. Let's go further down pit lane to Martin.
Yeah, 24 is back in, the GT leader, and its sister car, the 23 car, which was only 3 laps away from a pit stop anyway, so obviously they were in under yellow. What's the 24 doing here? It stopped just before the yellow. They're taping up the damaged door, or the replacement for the damaged door, and cleaning the windscreen. Calvin.
Well, problems for the number 1 machine. Just as we said everything was running smooth once again, maybe a similar situation to the champion car about an hour and a half ago. Marco Werner went to refire this thing, no life whatsoever. We know it was a battery issue on the 38 car, so right now the Yost engineers and mechanic are literally climbing all over this machine, trying to identify what the fault is. Meanwhile, let's go down to Brian Till.
The number 4 Corvette came in, Andy Pilgrim got out. Oliver Gavin got in that car. They're down and away. Not a mark on that car, but it's the last bullet in the gun for Chevrolet in effect right now. There was nothing wrong with the 3 car, if you'll remember when they brought it in and they had the starter problem. They got to hope that this car can make it to the end without any problems, Calvin.
Well, they're now down deep into the cockpit. They're going to change the battery, I believe. And this is taking a little bit of time. What's amazing with these machines, some of the tricky stuff to change, they can change a complete rear end in about 6 minutes, and sometimes a small component can take equally as long. So the boys will go to work. They're trying to chase it down. They need to get the thing refired, of course, to get to that 70% mark to score points and try and get this thing home and try and capture this championship. Meanwhile, let's go down to Andrew.
Down at Pro Drive, no problems at all. They just put fuel in the 80 and the 88 car, and they were out very quickly indeed, so they increased their lead in GTS.
Meanwhile, this plays nicely into the hands of the second Panos. Number 11, Scott Maxwell, has just taken over from Gunnar Jeanette, because while these guys experience problems, the second Panos can move up into the top 3 in Prototype 900.
But one of the things that makes champions is you got to be good, you got to be consistent, you got to be fast, and you got to be lucky. And these guys are having this happen under a full course caution.
Yeah.
This could happen under a green. There'd be 2 laps down now.
Well, when the champion car didn't fire, that was under caution as well.
That was,
so
yeah.
It's shared luck.
Yeah, that's balancing out that way. Remember that the car had problems at Le Mans with the starter motors, and there was one other race a year ago, might have been Mid-Ohio, that Yost ran into a starter motor problem with this car too, and I think that's about the only weakness that's ever surfaced with it. How many race cars, David, can you think of where mechanics can climb up the hood of the car without crushing
my God, if you get on the bodywork of most race cars, you just collapse.
Yeah.
On yeah, it must be strong, but it's still, very light.
They're frantically working there right now.
You see the sun getting very low now. I'm sure it's giving the drivers, especially as you said earlier, Bill, the guys with windscreens, windshields, a lot of trouble. We saw it briefly from that Corvette earlier on.
Let's update you as we go to a commercial break. It's Herbert, Beretta, Beeler, the top 3 at the moment. That's soon to change as Scott Maxwell will move into that top 3. Thomas Enger rounds out the top 5, and he is the top GTS.
Speed Channel's coverage of the Petit LeMans is brought to you by Porsche. There is no substitute. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. I'm Bob Varsha, still under a yellow flag. We'll be leaving you at the top of the hour at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Send you to coverage of Winston Cup Happy Hour from Martinsville, Virginia. So stand by for that. Coming up next here on Speed Channel after we leave you at 6. We'll return at 7 to take you through to the conclusion of the Petit LeMans. Let's get down to the pit lane and Calvin Fish.
Quick update on the number 1 car, Bob. They did change the battery. The car refired, so no problem there. They also took the opportunity to change the rear tail. Here you see the rear wing ink plate is actually damaged here, probably from that earlier off from Frank Bieler. So they took the opportunity to change this. He should have a fresh race car underneath him once again.
And that is good news for Frank Bieler and Marco Werner, who came out leading the championship. Here comes Werner bringing the car back in. He got the lap, cool the engine down, check and make sure nothing's rattling, screws don't need tightening. What a fraught afternoon it has been. All they have needed to do is go 70% of the race winner's distance. They don't have to win the race, but it has been everything that they can do to keep body and soul together, as it were. Frank Bieler has had the car off and on a couple of times, at least one major impact with the concrete trackside wall. Now Marco Werner fires it up and heads back out. Let's get back up to the booth.
And he was lucky in that other off. I mean, he went off the road at high speed. He was doing probably 120 mile an hour, 125 mile an hour when he shot off the road there and dug up the grass verge.
Today it's been dirt track Frank, hasn't it, Cal?
Well, a quick update there. I think they got the battery in, but as smart as this team is, they sent Marco out so they could beat the pace car and not lose another lap, and then brought him back in to then tighten up the panel on the inside of the cockpit there. So just good heads-up work by the Yost team.
Just want to update you on a few other positions and drivers. We often talk about the top 3 in these categories, but there's a couple of other people that deserve a mention. Both Ferraris are in the top 5. Actually, the top 6 in GT. Darren Law in the Asemco Ferrari. That's the silver one. He's running 6th in class at the moment. Court Wagner in the New Century Mortgage Racers Group Porsche. He's got himself back up to 7th with Kevin Buckler and young Pat Long. So they've battled a long, hard day. Incidentally, Johnny O'Connell and that Corvette, they have now slipped to 6th in class. We're mentioning the top 3 and 4 a lot in GTS with Frederick Dorr running 4th in class. 5th in GTS is the Car Sport Viper of Jean-Philippe Belloc. So that's where those guys sit at the moment. They're the guys a little further down. Let's have a look at our podium boards now, which highlight the top 3 in each of our 4 categories. The 2 prototype classes, 900, 675. You can see their respective orders there. And in 675, that has switched yet again. Andrew Davis now for Essex Racing back up on top. And now GTS and GT. It is still Ferrari, Corvette, and that is still just enough for Corvette to clinch the manufacturer's title. All important that Oliver Gavin and his co-drivers stay in that 3rd position or better.
And if Jörg Bergmeister should win the GT class, he's going to beat Ralph Cohen into that second spot.
Well, of course, coming into today's round, they had a 1 point. When I say they, he and Timo Bernard had a 1 point buffer over Anthony Lazzaro and Ralph Kellner, so they will hold that margin. They will consolidate their position as 2nd in the championship. Remember that we will be back in just a little over 1 hour's time, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we will take you all the way to the checkered flag in the 6th annual Petit Le Mans here at Road Atlanta, the final race of the 2003 American Le Mans Series. What a season it's been. And Frank Bieler, Marco Werner just holding on. They're not too far away from clinching Jost's 4th consecutive driver's title.
Pretty remarkable job by Yost, too. They sure deserve a lot of credit. They just set a standard that is so high to shoot at. Champion have had a good run, and they're not done yet, but to win it is definitely going to take some more bad luck on Yost's part, because they're the polished team.
And as we go into the dark, it's 6 o'clock Eastern over here now. You can see the shadows completely enveloping the main straight there. Some very dark areas under the bridge and under the tunnel and around the backside of going into turn 5. Still got the sun in your eyes in a few spots badly, but in another 20 minutes or so, it'll be practically dark.
Yeah, no, I'll bet Johnny's glad right now, though, that he doesn't have that windshield in front of him, and we can look through the windshield of a car to see the difference. Look at how clear it is for Johnny and for our camera lens. And inside a car, well, there's a fresh windshield on Alex Job's car, so that doesn't look too bad. But when you come into a bright, sunny patch, man, it's just about absolutely opaque at the right angle.
Try to keep some heat in the tyres. Obviously the temperature dropped dramatically down here when the sun got very cold this morning. So really going to change temperatures dramatically as well as the light.
Well, when we return, it should be fully dark here at Road Atlanta, and then the spectacle begins anew with glowing brake discs and headlights and flames from the exhaust headers. So join us then for Lee Diffie, David Hobbs, Bill Adam, Calvin Fish, Andrew Marriott, Martin Haven, and Brian Till. I'm Bob Varsha. Enjoy happy hour from Martinsville, and then rejoin us for the dramatic conclusion of the 6th annual Petit LeMans from Road Atlanta. Until then, so long, everyone.